Spiro Avenue Show. I don't know whether to call these days melancholy or bizarre or odd. You know, one of my heroes growing up in the broadcasting realm was the great Larry King, originally Larry Zeiger, who made his broadcasting debut in 1953. And his first time on the mic, he froze. He didn't say anything for nearly a full minute, which is like half an hour in the broadcasting world. And his boss came in and yelled at little 22-year-old Larry King and said, "This is a communication business. Communicate," and then stormed out of the room. And Larry King rolled with it. And what he said that he learned that day was the secret to broadcasting is to just be honest and be direct. And I'm going to be honest with the audience tonight. This is a show whose main topic, whose opening topic anyway, is not one that is fun for me to discuss. It is one that I am eagerly sprinting away from because it's just unpleasant. And I want to get that out of the way. But I will say the two guests that we have to discuss it have made me enthusiastic to tackle this Michigan State Tunnelgate thing. I am planning, barring for some major change in the story, some revelation that we don't see coming, I am planning to leave this behind tonight. But I think I have two really wise men to help me close my book on this, barring Mel Tucker being caught on tape punching somebody and nobody saw that coming. So I'm looking forward to
that. Would be Juwan Howard.
Oh, well, you started in already. So, so this is kind of a return for one and a debut for the other. Scott Burnstein, best-selling author. You are one of the most respected guys in town. Everybody knows who you are. I don't know what's going on with the Alabama hoodie, but that's we'll get that story later. In a debut, we've met before, but at a basketball game, you probably don't even remember it. Sat with you in 2017, seeing Oakland play Michigan State at LCA. Jeff Sakwa. I was saying Sakwa for 10 years.
You can say whatever you want.
So you are a Michigan State power broker. You have so many titles for chair of the GOP, Michigan GOP.
Co-chair, not chair. That's like
co-chair.
That's like VP, no power.
Well, that's not what I hear. Maybe that may be what it says on your business card, but I hear you're as powerful as anyone in terms of the power brokers.
No.
So I welcome you both, and this is hopefully you guys can help me sort through this stuff. We talked a little bit before the show. We have a mutual friend, Brian Asalam, former Michigan State trustee. He's been on the show a couple of times, has his own show in Birmingham at the fledgling Woodward Sports Network. And Brian had a rather long, I think it was like an 11 or 12-minute soliloquy where he just went off solo covering Michigan State and the fallout with Tunnelgate. We cut up just a piece of that, and I want to start there and kind of work off that. So let's run Brian's tape from last night on the Spartan Dog 4 Life show.
Are U of M and Harbaugh done suspending our players? That's what I want to know. Are we done with that? Michigan State has taken the appropriate steps. Agree or not, bending the knee, bowing or not, to their administration, to their narrative, to all the media. One of our young men swung a helmet. Others were involved in altercations. We have dealt with them swiftly. Mel Tucker has responded admirably and done what he's supposed to do. Coach, were you out there asking for Juwan to get charged with assault when he slapped the coach? I mean, the hypocrisy coming out of Ann Arbor is something else. Absolutely. And I know this is not a popular take. I totally get it. Totally get it. MSU has stepped up. We've stepped up. And some will argue we've bowed and we bent the knee to them over there. And kind of overreacted.
Okay, former MSU trustee Brian Asalam. Now, he said there, I know this isn't a popular take. I will say he's right about the Michigan side. That's not a popular take. The Michigan State perspective seems to be somewhat reflective of that, where everybody acknowledges it was bad, can happen, punishments are warranted, punishments were meted out. There seems to be a little bit of reveling in this stuff on the Michigan side, a little bit running with this, maybe more to an extreme than I think is necessary. That seems to be the consensus Michigan State take. Not that Brian speaks for everybody, but anecdotally in my experience, that's about 88 to 90% a representative example of what Michigan State people feel. It was bad, punishment warranted, a little bit overkill. We're trying to arrest everybody.
I'm not saying he's wrong, but is it something that is unexpected? I mean, is this behavior that the University of Michigan and their fans and their athletic department and the powers that be there, kind of the typical dare I say, arrogance and self-righteousness. And this is coming from someone who, I went to Indiana. I grew up in the state. I
Couldn't
honestly,
get into Michigan or Michigan.
I honestly root for both programs. I want to see both programs.
Yeah, your
do
rivalry
well.
neutral. I wouldn't even know your leanings either way.
So so in one sense, he's right. But what's the newsflash? That's my.
So you're talking to a guy here who does not hate Michigan in any way, shape, or form. I grew up on Michigan. My very first sports memory is 1969, 24-12. My oldest brother's 9 years older than me. I just was a holiday every year, Michigan, Ohio State. So I'm in the middle of I have a friendship with a guy named John Wangler. I think you know who he is. And one guy I always wanted to meet, I never got to meet, met a lot of people. I never got to meet Bo Schembechler. And Bo Schembechler taught these guys, the guys in their team are not your enemy, they're your opponent. And there's a big difference between enemy and opponent. But having said that, today, if Bo were coaching, you wouldn't see every single play a guy celebrate. If the defense makes a great play, they celebrate. If the offense makes a great play, they celebrate. The entire frickin' game is first down. I tackled you, I got a sack, and that creates the animosity going on. And as a guy who's now 62 years old, I find it sort of boring in a way because it's just like, it's a taunting game the entire game. So I don't know what happened in that tunnel. Taunting does not excuse bad behavior, but I agree with Brian, my friends that went to Michigan. Again, I don't hate Michigan, and my Spartan friends hate me for not hating Michigan, okay? But at the end of the day, Mel Tucker's got a job to do. Harbaugh's got a job too. The authority. I think if I'm Mel Tucker, they lose every game. He's got a great excuse built in. What I'm worried about as a Spartan fan, how is it going to affect recruiting? Obviously, what somebody does not reflect on Mel Tucker. Please. It's ridiculous. Just like there's good people who go to court every day, their kids mess up. That doesn't mean the parents are bad. I got friends who are horrible parents. Their kids are great. I got friends their parents are, every which way. It was an isolated moment in time that was wrong. The punishment, at the same time, you don't ruin a kid's life for it. They got a whole life to live. It's not the end of the world. I mean, if a guy got hurt, it's awful. But we learn from our mistakes, and God knows we're all imperfect, with the exception of Scott.
Well, everyone knows that. So, I mean, if you are... Oh, go ahead.
So there's a lot of conversation about, going beyond suspensions and whether or not players are being kicked off the team, starting to talk about, or not starting, but immediately they started to talk about whether or not the law should get involved, whether there should be criminal charges pressed. I think the one thing that gets lost, and there's a lot of fallacies that surround this conversation, and I've heard a lot of it from the sports media around here. There's a lot of social media static, if you will. And I think we shouldn't lose sight of the fact whether or not Jim Harbaugh gets up at a press conference and says he wants charges pressed, whether or not Mr. Green's family come out and say we want, whether or not Brian Masalem says that, and Jeff Sakwa say we think that's ridiculous. It's none of their choices.
Correct.
The choice comes down to the Washtenaw County prosecutor and the Ann Arbor, the law enforcement. So whether or not they want it, who cares if they want it? Well, the decision will be made by the authorities, and that's where we'll be at.
It is an incredible misconception that you see, and it's one thing for a layman, but like actual blue check mark reporters will come out, and this is all over. Jim and Green's family plans to press charges. Like that there's no such thing. Like that's the prosecutor.
You can encourage the prosecutor. You can say we want you to do this.
You can increase the likelihood because you're a cooperating witness. Right. And I'm not saying there's no correlation. Obviously, an enthusiastic witness that is saying, "Yeah, I want to press charges," that may up the chances.
But Jim Harbaugh saying, "I want charges pressed," I'd like to think that doesn't hold any weight with the authorities in Ann Arbor and who decides whether or not things should actually...
He hasn't won a championship. He doesn't have that kind of authority.
Put into the legal system.
Now, I mean, none of us are sitting here practicing attorneys today, but, I mean, for the helmet swinging incident in particular, it's on tape. I mean, I'm taking Michigan at their words that there were broken nose, facial lacerations. There were some significant injuries, more than just a scrape. I'm okay with the prosecutor bringing charges
100%.
there. You don't like that idea?
No, I do. I mean, it's he hurt somebody. That's a big deal.
Yeah, like that, I think that kid
can't go around hurting individuals.
Right.
And
that's why I think I haven't heard anybody. I'm sure there's somebody out there, but I haven't heard a single Michigan State person fight against that. What I am curious about is, and I don't know, Jeff, if you're as involved as Scott and I with Twitter and that, but there is a reveling in this where they're like enjoying it, is my perception, and that seems to be a common perception.
You're saying the Michigan side of it.
They are enjoying it. This is like they are bloodthirsty for. I mean, they want Mel Tucker suspended.
Ridiculous.
It's just to me, it's been taken as it's a terrible thing that they're trying to make rivalry fodder. They're trying to expand it and make it an even bigger issue. Is that an unreasonable position?
That's the society we live in today, and everything. Every day we pick up a newspaper, it's us against them against whether. That's the world we live in today. But backing up a second, you have at the end of the day, like you said, it's going to be the authorities that make the decision. But if you were an opponent, you were playing. Last year, you were playing Michigan State and Kenneth Walker didn't play, and you won the game. It would never feel the same. So you want to beat and talk to any athlete. You're friends with athletes. I'm friends with athletes. You want to beat everybody full strength. We'll talk about the back-to-back Pistons later, so I'm told. I mean, we were without guys in '88. We beat in '89. We beat the Lakers without their starting backcourt. We won, but that's part of the game. But I would have liked to beat them with Magic Johnson and Byron Scott. So we didn't. So they didn't play.
David Rivers.
Yeah. You
guys are geeking out on the 80s basketball, right?
Yeah.
So just moving on from this specific component, I think it seems that we agree, but correct me if I'm wrong, we all seem comfortable with the idea of helmet-swinging guy gets charges pressed against him.
Oh, yeah.
And beyond that, the suspension should be sufficient, right? I mean, they're asking for, Michigan people are asking for these guys to be
electric chair?
Have charges pressed against them, be kicked out of the program. Some of these guys listed, I'm not going to get into whether it's 2 or 4, there's some discrepancy there, but there's more than one, I know for a fact, from talking to people up there that have seen everything that there is to see. There's a couple guys in this that it was pushing, and for 4 seconds. And you're in a skirmish, you're emotional. I'm not saying don't suspend them. They were suspended. I'm fine with that. We're going to kick the kid out of school for a skirmish and he's pushing a guy. Guys are bumping around. To me, that's insane, right? You think that's fair?
No, I don't. But at the same time, I'm not making the decision. I haven't seen all the tapes.
Well, we know, but I don't have Jim Harbaugh here and the Washtenaw County prosecutor. I'm asking you your opinion. I mean, don't you think that's excessive?
I don't think for pushing and shoving in a tunnel that's enough to warrant criminal charges. Yes.
Thank you.
If there's things that I haven't seen, again,
that's a given.
If pushing and shoving equals charges, the jails will be filled with too many people.
I didn't love the optics, another buzzword for our time, from some of those angles where it looked like McBurrows was getting, bounced around,
ping pong ball.
like a pinball. So it was a ugly incident. I think everybody wants quick, easy answers, and I've heard a lot of people again kind of thinking aloud or asking how did we get here? The temperature is so high, and the toxicity is at such a level. And I mean, I was talking to our producer Ben, your producer Ben,
it's ours.
on the phone a couple days ago, and I said, well, it doesn't take a rocket scientist. You don't have to look that far to figure out why things are so intense over the last 10 or 15 years. What's the factor that exists these last 10 or 15 years that didn't exist for the previous 40 years?
Well, you say it's obvious. I was going to ask you that later, but let's get to it right now, because to me, I'll give you my answer, and I'm curious for Jeff's too, before you give me yours. My answer would be Michigan State started winning. That's it. I mean, anything else is just noise. That's
the answer.
Your takeaway, Jeff?
Yes, with plus the addition of social media.
Right. That's a great point,
it's
too.
It's a 12-month. You really do get to brag for 12 months.
For the first 30 years of my
day.
life,
Yeah.
there were 2 Michigan State seasons of any national significance at all. The 87-88 team that with Lorenzo White, Andre Rison, and so forth, and then that 99 Nick Saban team. But other than for the first 30 years of my life, that was how, all due respect to the Michigan State football program, and they throughout that time period that I'm claiming they were irrelevant, they still put out quite a bit of NFL players. But Michigan and them were on completely different galaxies.
I'll go this far. All 3 of us can recruit at Michigan all day long.
Yeah, I agree.
But by the way, Michigan State, we gotta work to get our recruits. I think
that's what happened.
So, but let me ask you guys a question. 'Cause I have a daily argument with, not a daily argument. There's a guy I know. I'm not going to mention his name. Michigan State, a football school or a basketball school? What is it?
It's one of those unicorns, and that's why it's so great.
It's on that list of schools that have been in a playoff and Final Four. There's like 3 of them. Like
that's what's so special about it.
He insists it's football. He said, would the average fan want to win in football or basketball? I think we'll take what we can get. But I say it's a basketball school because of Izzo. If I go around the country, say, have you ever heard of Michigan State? They've the Final Four.
He's the face of the athletic department.
Yeah, the national perception.
The point I'm making is, and Mike Valenti did a whole, and I love Mike Valenti. I think he's the most consequential sports voice in our city since Mitch Albom, when Mitch Albom was in his prime.
Yeah, 43 years ago.
Yeah. But I had a lot of issues with the way that he addressed this particular situation this week on air, and all of this pontificating about how we got here, and him kind of obviously putting a lot of the blame on Harbaugh. But this is a result of the fact that there is a competitive rivalry now, and there wasn't a competitive rivalry for decades, and now the last 10 to 15 years, it's become competitive to the point where Michigan State is. What have they won? 10 of the last 12, or
10 of the last 15.
10 of the last.
But I mean,
but let me say this: at the end of the day, it's 100% because we won a few games. A lot of weird ways. You could argue Aiden Hutchinson's with the sack last year. With you guys, the referees, lucky play. Win's a win, a W's a W, an L's an L. And that's why we get up every day and watch sporting events, because we don't know the answer. That's why the sports is so bad. That's why DraftKings is making a fortune. Do they sponsor your show? They sponsor every other show.
I'm actually the one that they don't. So I'm hoping we can turn them around.
Yeah.
But the reason they were called Little Brother is because they were Little Brother for those 40 years.
I've always said I didn't think that was an unfair criticism in real time. I hate to say it, and that's coming from me. I mean,
but now they're clearly not, and that has fueled the intensity of this rivalry.
Yeah, and Harbaugh is complicit, but is not the cause of this. He stepped in.
I would argue 4 years ago, 3 years ago, every alum wanted to get rid of him, didn't they?
You don't have to go back that far.
Yeah,
I mean, that was
all of a sudden
they wanted him gone before last year.
Winning's everything, right? Winning's everything, and second place is the first place loser. So,
and you know what, Harbaugh, for those 6 years, he deserved the criticism. It was deserved, and he was butthurt by it, and he was. I think it still gnaws at him. He feels like these last 2 years has been a big. Redemption. I'm going to stick it to you, to not just the haters at Michigan State, but to the haters within the Michigan orbit. That's what drives him.
He said his quote before the game was, I'm surmising it, that we're going to play to win. We're going to put our foot in the gas. We're not going to take it off. Obviously, when he ran the trick play towards the end of the game, that's rivalry material. But you know what? So what?
But my point is, he deserved that criticism. And for the last 2 years, he deserves the praise.
Yeah.
Last year, and I was his biggest critic. But last year, I would have said he was the I don't think I just said it, but I think other people awarded him. He was the coach of the year.
This will be a big year, too.
Because in the NCAA.
They had their magical year last year, but they still split the rivalry games. Like, if they go back to the playoff this year, beat Ohio State in a year that they took Michigan State to Pound Town, that'll be a bigger statement. To me, there's not an asterisk. He won the Big Ten last year. But, like, it's not the dream season. You want to beat Michigan State and Ohio State. Yeah. The whole thing about D'Antonio started it because Michigan lost to App State, and afterwards they asked D'Antonio, and he said, "Oh, what should we have? A moment of silence?" Like, right. If that's so inflammatory, that stuff was bubbling. Little brother was a powder keg, but we all agree, which I'm relieved actually, because that's a minority opinion. Even Michigan State people are like, "Oh, it was the Mike Hart thing."
Don't you want to have a rivalry?
Right.
When I ran for MSU, I was on the campaign trail with my Michigan compatriot. And I said, "Don't you got to win a game to make it a rivalry?" So, right? If as Ohio State, they finally won last year. It's Ohio State Michigan game, a rivalry when Ohio State clobbers everyone anymore. So, you got to win a few games to consider it a rivalry.
The tide turned quick.
Yeah.
Yes,
and I'm happy. I think this is great. I don't look at it as okay. Last Saturday was ugly. It was one of the darker points in the history of the rivalry, one of the darker points in the history of sports in the state. But I don't think that means we throw the baby out with the bathwater. This idea of, we gotta lower the temperature and cancel the game for a couple of years.
That's out there.
It's insane.
Move the game to Ford Field.
That's insane.
The only thing I could, and I'm not even in favor of it, but I would have the conversation, would be the game's always at 12. Like that, I'll have that conversation. Everything else, these interventions, cancel the game is nonsense.
What's the difference of that and a brawl on the mound, hockey fight? I could go on forever.
Well, there's perception of hockey fight, like it's known,
but still,
you kind of 1-on-1, 2-on-2, like it's if it were one guy, swinging on one guy, it's different. Well, it's the 5-on-1, 6-on-1.
Let me ask you guys as state fans, because I personally wasn't offended by this at all, but it seems like there were the Blake Corum comment at the press conference. Whatever.
Not offended by it. It's to me, it's a little weird. It's to me, it's not even good trash talk. Like the Tuck Cummins thing has elicited more bad jokes than anything. It's just
too easy.
Well, it's just like they're not even creative. And
I'm not. Yes, that part is true.
Like, I thought Tuck was coming. He was running. It's like,
but this narrative,
Ned Flanders humor over here.
This narrative that's being put out as as this excuse or this built-in narrative that almost lets Michigan, I don't know if off the hook or puts them on the hot seat, that and then McCarthy's comments, and that somehow the rivalry has become tainted or darker, or it's like it's just super competitive, right. And these people, these players might respect each other, but they don't like each other.
I'm fine with everything until you start swinging helmets and going 6-on-1. But everybody agrees. Like there's all this arguing going on. The core tenet people agree. I want to get back to the reveling.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give examples because I don't want to just talk out of my ass. I'm going to demonstrate what I'm saying. So Ben, throw up. This is a couple examples, but real Don Thomas, who's a somewhat noteworthy Michigan account, I guess, tweets out, new profile pic, and it's him with Tom Mars, the attorney who we're going to get to in a little bit more detail soon. The attorney that's representing the Gem and Green family and apparently maybe other people, allegedly. This is him sort of dunking on Michigan State. Here's me with the attorney who's going to come get your ass. Yeah. They're selling T-shirts. Roll to the next one, Ben. Swanky Wolverine. Okay, the Swanky store has launched tees and hoodies for tunnels don't hurt people. People hurt people. Tees and hoodies.
It was a great start to the Lloyd Carr Tunnel, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, there you go. But we're already monetizing this stuff. So my argument is, it's a bad situation. This sort of we're on the hunt for justice and we're on our hill being righteous. I don't buy that because that stuff. I'm cherry picking, but there's a lot of that stuff out there. That tweet with the shirts had like a couple hundred likes and people saying they're going to buy it.
As a general rule, football, basketball, Michigan almost resents the rivalry instead of embracing the rivalry. And you should embrace the rivalry. They want to go back to the point where it was little brother. As opposed to someone like me who just wants to see great football and great competition or great basketball. There was the same thing going on with basketball reversed. Michigan was irrelevant for 15 years.
Yep. Let me ask you a question, Justin.
That wasn't good either.
Question for you. You got friends that went to Michigan, right?
Yeah, best man in my wedding.
But okay, is your friendship changed?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's definition of Twitter is not real life.
Yeah.
I'm not bitching with any of my Michigan friends. I have as many Michigan friends and relatives as Michigan State
By the
people,
way,
probably.
those guys are smart. We hire them. Spartans hired those guys.
Yeah, all of our billionaires.
Yeah.
I heard you just missed the billionaire cutoff, Jeff.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
maybe next year. You're at 988 or something. That's the rumor.
I got divorced.
Yeah. Okay. So you're like 450 or something. Yeah. I'll have to do the math on that one. So yeah, I my perception is yes, it was bad. We all know it's bad. I think the aftermath where there's grainy footage where people are circling people and highlighting people looks like this guy bumped into Harbaugh going off the field. What's that about? There have been Michigan State staffers falsely implicated in stuff. There was at least one player that I know for a fact because I talked to him and his dad, and they have proof of this. He was 100 feet away from the skirmish. He was still on the field. He was nowhere 90 to 100 feet away.
He was still trying to tackle Corum.
Yeah, right, unsuccessfully. And he was implicated by not just one or two people. It's like, oh, I think I'm not going to say the name because that defeats the purpose of what I'm talking about. But he's being named as he's involved in this. He's one of the guys in the skirmish. Like, I just think this has become theater in a sense and rivalry fodder when it should be a universally solemn thing. I mean, is that like a crazy? And
if you're a Michigan fan pointing the fingers at State outside of the obvious, what do you want? What more do you want Tucker and the AD and the president to do right now? I mean,
they want Tucker suspended in a lot of these cases.
I can't.
You asked the question.
I'm not trying to kill the messenger here, but someone that would legitimately believe that and say that aloud isn't someone that you should be taking
that's
opinions from.
Where Brian's video about hypocrisy with Juwan Howard. He wasn't punished. I mean, at the end of the day, he got to coach the NCAA game. So stop it. Stop it. Don't take it too far. We're truthfully.
But Jeff, that was something
he was
that
suspended for games that
were
at the end of the season, whatever it was.
They were on the bubble.
Juwan Howard assaulted someone. Mel Tucker didn't assault
Exactly.
anybody.
That's the key to this.
Yeah, right. He hit somebody, and then his quote wasn't so great afterwards either, if you recall. I'm from Chicago. It's what I do.
No, he refused to. He refused to in the press conference.
Yeah.
He refused to basically apologize.
Yeah,
he tripled down right after.
Yeah, he got talked to, and it's like. By the way, no one's talking about Donovan McNabb's statement on Twitter either. So.
Donovan Edwards.
Well, yeah,
about Donovan McNabb,
with Kanye.
And I'll go on the record and say I have no, and I know Donnie personally, known him since he was 14. I root for Donnie like I'm his biggest cheerleader. I mean, really,
you look great in that skirt.
I've heard he's a good kid.
I started on Twitter. I started the Donovan Edwards for Heisman 2023 campaign. Big fan of Donovan Edwards. Huge mistake that I don't think he took enough ownership for, and that was swept under the rug by the program.
Harbaugh didn't say a word about it.
He should have been sat down for that game.
At least the half or something.
No, he should have been sat down for the whole game.
I agree, but something.
Yeah, but to pretend like it didn't happen, I have an issue with it. And honestly, I have an issue with. I'm like, it's like cannibalism because I'm a part of the local media to a degree. I mean, I'm not someone with a platform like mainstream media, but it's just another example for me how we live in a major media market, and a lot of times our media is very minor league. Like there was no reporters that were pushing Michigan to do something about it.
Do you buy the blue wall thing that Valenti talks about?
I do.
You buy that?
I mean, yeah. I know firsthand. I mean, there are plenty of gatekeepers, whether it be in the media, in law enforcement, with our, I think it's, and I'm all over the place here, but I think it's shameful that Dana Nessel, who is a Michigan grad, didn't open up an investigation on the Anderson thing. And that's shameful.
Defiantly so.
Shameful.
Yeah. What do you think?
Who's running, some of the most powerful people in ESPN in that orbit are Michigan grads.
And then you can go back, and I hate bringing this up, when ESPN went after Izzo.
It was ridiculous.
Well, he won't. He still, when he talks, he doesn't let it go because the guy is a god, and what they did to him is shameful.
They went after They went after a grizzly bear with a butter knife. That's what they did.
Yeah.
Well, D'Antonio, they put in there too. It was the
Yeah.
Smarty
Yeah.
Secrets headline, and they have Nasser in a graphic with
It was
D'Antonio.
ridiculous.
D'Antonio and Izzo, who wouldn't know where
Tom
Nasser could
Izzo made
walk
a
up to.
comment at an event I was at a few weeks ago. His comment was so fun. Why don't we just take care of the people that do the crime and not everybody else? As simple as that. Like, what are they worried about? And it's bizarre.
Do you think, to test your blue wall theory, I'm not going to weigh in either direction, if Jalen Berger had that retweet, do you think it's covered exactly the same way if Michigan State gives them a talking to, says, hey, we'll see you in West Bloomfield at the museum next summer?
Well, first of all, the football team didn't do what's the whole football team going there for?
Well, that's another story. But do you
By the
think
way,
there's any
we can
disparity there?
extrapolate from there because I don't know how far the show wants to go. Jordan Acker and Mark Burnstein asked Ron Weiser, chair of the Michigan GOP, to resign from being in a private meeting and calling Dana Nessel and Gretchen Whitmer witches, not bitches, witches. So you call your opponent a name, and then you ask him to resign. He's donated over $100 million to school, which benefits every student that walks through that door and faculty and alum, because he said something in a private meeting. Then you have Jordan Acker goes and sees Donovan Edwards and say, you know what? He's a good kid. We'll let it go. And
he is a good kid, but you shouldn't have let it go.
Right. He's a good kid. By the way, I personally disagree. I would have let it go. I mean, I am of the faith. And, kids, just let them teach, let them learn. And he went to West Bloomwood School. Plenty of Jewish kids, whatever it is.
To me, though, makes it worse.
Yeah.
It would be. I can
know better, right?
I can understand it more if he had gone to Castech.
Let me finish. What I hated was, obviously, someone else wrote his apology, which just happens in sports. And the fact that it was a gaffe, is that what do you call it?
Glitch.
A glitch.
Twitter glitch.
I don't think anybody believes that for a second. And by the way, he may have just retweeted something. I'll give him maybe he retweeted something without reading it. I don't know. But he definitely retweeted it, and Kanye was his guy. And that's what happens with somebody like Kanye. We're getting off on the subject, but it is what it is.
It's a teaching moment, though.
But Kanye's got a forum. He's got a platform. It's very dangerous. And now we got Kyrie a few days later. We're getting way off on the tangents. I'm going to let you take over.
If I was a college football or basketball coach, I would have a rule that during the regular season, nobody posts anything.
Well, you don't have to talk to Tom Izzo about social media.
I would say nobody posts anything. You can post in the off season. You ain't posting during the regular.
Yeah, that's going to be a disadvantage with NIL, though. These guys are pimping
Okay,
themselves, so
you're
that's going to be used
That's
against
true,
you in court.
$50 a tweet,
It's not
pal.
realistic.
Okay, how about? I think you could carve in some like exceptions into that policy. Where like if you're getting paid to tweet out something for United Wholesale Mortgage, that's okay. But I don't need your pontificating on Kanye West.
Yeah, but are they going to be following you if all you're doing is sponsored things? I don't know.
That's too much Big Brother. Let them do their thing.
But just put a button on it, though, Scott, because you hummed me to death. Jalen Berger does it. Is it the same? Is it the same thing?
Well, I was about to answer, but Jeff wanted to jump in. But yes, I thought about it for about 30 seconds, and my answer is yes. And I'm not going to name names, but I can just, on the top of my head, I can think of at least two writers between the Free Press and the News that would have written something on Jalen Berger that did not write something on Donovan Edwards, and we'll leave it at that.
So you think it would be different and treated differently?
So that's the blue wall again.
Yeah.
It's a big wall.
I've had the blue wall debate with like 27 guests, and it's like 50-50 split on whether it's real or not. I think there's something to it, but overstated.
If it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's a duck.
So I'm older than you guys are. Everybody has media favorites. Everybody has guys, in professional sports. PR guys, players, athletes have their favorite writers. They feed them stories. They trust them. You've gotten favorite people in your career, and maybe the blue people have more people than the green people. That's the way it goes. But you know what? That's life, and who cares? That's the way it goes.
I want to jump into the showmanship from the legal aspect, and I think everyone at this table, I know Scott knows Wade Fink, who's a friend of mine, and at some point we'll be at this table discussing the legality of this stuff as it comes out and things change. But the Tom Mars role here, he has, as we mentioned earlier, Tom Mars has been retained by the Jim and Green family. Supposedly maybe some other people are talking to him as well. He was most famous probably for, in this sort of state, I guess, for getting Shea Patterson declared eligible early against all odds by all accounts. He also famously had a flopped case against Mark D'Antonio in Michigan State. Brain Trust leadership. Hollis was involved. Lena K. Simon was in that lawsuit.
I believe he got. Did he not get sanctioned or something too?
Well, no, he left right before the shit hit the fan.
Okay.
So he got out, but I'm not going to speculate on to what extent he was participating. He bailed on that legal team just before it hit the fan. So this is Tom Mars going into that D'Antonio Blackwell lawsuit. Ben, throw that up, please. I've reviewed certain evidence that convinced me beyond any doubt that Curtis Blackwell is the victim of a very troubling injustice. It's my opinion that Michigan State has taken a path in this litigation it will come to regret. This is in regards to the Blackwell-D'Antonio lawsuit. That was from February 2020. Let's do the Tony Paul headline shortly thereafter, Ben, right a month later. Blackwell's 17-month case against MSU's Mark D'Antonio and others should be tossed out. This is according to the magistrate, and let's see what the magistrate said. Ben, roll that. A federal magistrate is recommending a full dismissal of the lawsuit against Mark D'Antonio and other former MSU officials, saying the lawyers for Curtis Blackwell have made mistake after mistake and attempted to harass the former football coach. Judge Sally J. Barron said Blackwell's lawyers repeatedly misused court process for the purpose of harassing the defendants. The judge further stated the inappropriate conduct of Blackwell's attorneys have marred the history of this case. That was just a month after Tom Mars's comments about, I've seen the evidence and this is really bad. This case was dismissed by the judge, who we're not going to get into all the myriad issues with it. The case was a disaster. Their process was a disaster. I bring this up, and we mentioned Mars exited this case right before it was dismissed. But I use this as an example of Mars grandstanding, saying Michigan State's in for it, and then everything kind of fizzling out. There was no meat on the bone, and it was dismissed in embarrassing fashion. This is a little different, obviously, because there's something objectively, I would say objectively illegal on tape. So it's a little different. I'm not comfortable with Tom Mars being in this situation, trying to dunk on Michigan State. And I'll finish here before I throw it to you guys. His series of tweets, and this stuff's still ongoing, he may have had something since we started, has been, to me, completely inappropriate given the seriousness of the situation and the legal proceedings. Not illegal, but improper. Ben, can we roll his tweets? Tom Mars just dunking on Michigan State left and right. He's back there. He's texting his girlfriend or something. There we go. Okay. So this is the first of a few. Sometimes it makes sense to wait until an investigation is finished before taking disciplinary action against a college athlete, but not when this happens. How many times would you have to watch this video before deciding to kick the player off the team or expel them from school?
I don't know. If the NFL referee, it'd probably take a little while for them to make the decision.
You actually read about that. Roll the next one, Ben. You can just run right through them. I assume the delay by the Big Ten is the result of Kevin Warren not being able to participate in the review because his son is a tight end on MSU's football team. Hard to imagine a worse conflict of interest. So here's Tom Mars putting effectively an allegation of impropriety against the commissioner of the Big Ten. So that's interesting. Next one, please. I can't help but wonder whether this kind of behavior is built into the culture of the MSU football program. Shows a late hit on Shea Patterson. And what is there, one more, Ben? I mean, just to put a button on Tom Mars. This is in response to the suspensions. This is not sufficient punishment not sufficient punishment for some, but a good move by MSU. Looks like every criminal defense lawyer in East Lansing will have a new client before this is over. So he is effectively saying
he sent that 3 days ago, 2 days ago.
Yeah. What's your point?
No, my point is that that wasn't tweeted during the incident.
No.
It was tweeted like this week.
Yeah.
I'm saying that's an inappropriate comment. Is what I'm saying.
You think his position is Michigan State has such wide culpability criminally. He said criminal defense. We're not talking civil. Remember, that's a different standard with more serious consequences. Every criminal defense attorney in East Lansing is going to have a new client. He is making this seem like...
I think he's from Mars.
You think he's from Mars?
Yeah.
That's where you get... Yeah. To me, is that not insane grandstanding? If you want to talk about his client, Jim Green, we're all together. Everyone has said that.
Better call Sal.
Well, tell me and I'm not trying to diminish the attack on Jamon Green because it was brutal and horrible. And again, if charges criminally come from it, so be it. But from a civil posture, unless you can show me, and maybe you can, that his chances of playing professional football have been undermined or that he has some career-altering or life-altering injuries, where's the damages?
Yeah, that's going to be the key. You would have to show some. I mean, you can get into the category of, PTSD.
Right.
And I can't sleep at night. And you need a psychologist or psychiatrist to testify. I mean, there is a lane.
I hear
for that.
Tuck coming when I'm sleeping at night.
Yeah. Well, okay. I mean, not that. They're not afraid of that anymore for whatever reason. But look,
it's a lot of bluster.
But to me, like,
it's a guy, in my opinion, who's not a very good lawyer trying to try a case and get publicity and have his phone ring.
I just think it's like,
and you're giving him you're giving him the stage.
You're giving him oxygen.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't need my help. I mean, this is stuff he is. I mean, he's already.
I don't follow.
He's in the Detroit News and Free Press. He's been seen 1,000 times on Twitter. He doesn't need my help.
The story's driving internet traffic.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, that's a whole other.
I'm actually surprised there hasn't been more reporting on it. As much reporting as there been.
Yeah. I just, to me, like, it betrays the notion that this is a solemn event. You're tweeting out videos from 5 years ago. Oh, it's the culture of the program. Oh, every criminal defense attorney in East Lansing is going to be busy these next few weeks.
I want someone that throws out the culture of the program allegation. I want someone to bring me, and I'm talking about, since Mel Tucker took over the program, bring me the list of discipline issues that he's had.
I mean, short.
That's my point. Like, so don't tell me this is indicative of the culture.
Well, and that's the point I've made is that, like, both schools, every major school,
D'Antonio did have
there's 1,000 examples of these at Michigan and Michigan State. I mean, to me, it betrays the notion this is a solemn event and we're seeking justice. And this family said, to me, that is a clown car operation on his part. And I'm sorry, it's not in a vacuum. There's a lot of people that are doing the same chicken dance on social media. It's like, shouldn't you guys be sad about this shit? Like, can't we all agree that, like, oh man, that went dark? Like, why is this being used, parading around to dunk on people? It's the most bizarre vibe. It just there's a just disparity there from what it should be.
You know what's sad? They won the game. No one's talking about the freaking game they won. That's what the talk should be about. We kicked their ass. Our ass. Whatever it is. Yes, they're just that's their celebration is pounding guys that made mistakes. So be it. But to me, they won the game. The rivalry's all alive and well. There'll be some chirping next year during the summer. And most of the people I know have forgotten about it and moved on to the next problem. There's a few problems in the real world. We got an election coming up, and people got other things, and gas is $29 a gallon. And
deep breath on that. We're getting to the election at the end here.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move past that because I think we're good. I think we all understand what's going on here. Terrible things happen. They're being addressed. It's bad. You mentioned one of the darkest points.
And there's people trying to make money from it.
Let me throw out one thing, and this is a very, very small nitpick. So I don't even want to categorize it as a critique. But if I was the only thing that I would have done extra that Michigan State hasn't done, I probably would have sent two of my captains out to the media. To do some type of, this was a bad look. We take ownership for it. This isn't who we are.
You know why they didn't do that, though?
Why?
Because there's police there taking police reports. You're not going to have someone go give a statement.
You keep your mouth shut.
I'm not talking about implicating anybody. I'm talking about the captains of the team talking in general terms.
You don't talk.
They can accidentally implicate. Everyone's saying, why isn't Mel Tucker apologized? I guarantee, I don't know this for a fact. I'm inferring it from common sense. Tucker was told not to call an apology.
If that's the case,
I'm just giving you the answer.
No, if that's the case, that's the case. I'm just.
They were
You're
told.
a lawyer.
Not
You
to.
should know that.
They were told.
I think if you talked in generalities and you had team captains that were,
then you're putting a 21-year-old. Hey, don't trip up. Don't say something that could burn us later. I mean, when you start throwing out lawsuits in the Ann Arbor Police Department, like immediately. That's what people do because you can that can be rolling at the civil trial.
That's valid. It's valid.
That's the answer for that.
1,000,000% correct.
I like Jeff. I mean, you're too. Scott's too mean to me. He's always pushing back on everything. So let's move on. I'm done with Tunnelgate. Hopefully forever. Again, barring a major material change in the story. I want to talk about Michigan State big picture. We'll spend a little less time on this. You mentioned Mike Valenti earlier. He made, and I'm not talking about the segment you're talking about. Yesterday, he makes this impassioned plea to the Michigan State fan base who are crying about Mel Tucker, saying he's a boss, he's overpaid, or whatever. He laid it out there in about a 7-minute segment that we spliced up. Ben, let's roll that. Mike Valenti's impassioned plea to the Michigan State fan base.
For Spartan Nation, many of you, not all of you, many of you disgust me. And I'll tell you why. The behavior of some of you is disgusting. And it's in relation to Mel Tucker. So let me just go right down Main Street with this. Make a decision. Either your dislike of this man and your love for who he replaced are irreconcilable, or you're going to begin to put your football program first. Because let me tell you something. Mel Tucker is in it. I mean, in it right now. And we all sat from afar and laughed as Michigan never allowed Rich Rod to get off the ground. Never. The Lloyd Carr loyalists, the factions, and Rich Rod's own idiocy, it never had a chance. I cannot believe the way some Spartan fans are talking about Mel Tucker less than a year from an 11-win season. But let me be clear about something. You either get behind this guy and give him a fair shake, or we're going back to the dark ages. And this program will look like Perlis the end years. Okay? So figure it out.
All right, where do you guys stand on this? The Mel Tucker confidence in some segments of the fan base is wavering.
Agree 1,000,000%. The bandwagon was rolling. He beat Michigan the COVID year as well. The guy is a great coach. He's a great person. He's very Izzo-like. He's very warm. He's very friendly. He's good with alum. He's good with players. He's good with everybody. It's, a year where it's not going well. And we just talked about Harbaugh. They were ready to run him out of town. All of a sudden, he won a championship. You build a program more than 2 frickin' years or 3 years. Won't even call the COVID year a year, for crying out loud. He's getting recruits. You got to give him time. LSU would have taken him in a heartbeat. We all know that. The NFL will probably grab him someday for another head coaching job. The guy is the real deal. And he's the real deal. He's young enough, and he's old enough, and he's wise enough. The guy is a real deal. And the fact that alum are paying him that money, it doesn't cost the university a nickel. And the guy has already brought money to the university and brought people back in the stands, and they should thank him profusely, along with Kenneth Walker. And that give him credit for finding Kenneth Walker. Wake Forest didn't think he was good enough. Got an eye for it. At the end of the day, relax. As Tom Izzo says in every speech, believe it or not, the Final Four is not on the schedule. So same thing here. It's preposterous. Michigan's a very good football team that we lost to at home. In fact, I thought the score was going to be worse. Ohio State is a very good football team. The other games, our defense sucks. I mean, that's all there is to it. We got to get it worked out, and we will. Have faith.
So you're not shaking at all. You're as confident as you were 10 months ago.
I think that if you're a Spartan fan, we talked about it, little brother complex. Ohio State, know who the second best team is in the Big Ten? Who do you think it is?
Michigan.
Wrong. Ohio State's second team. Okay? That's how good they are. I mean, their quarterback's driving a Bentley, for crying out loud. So at the end of the day, Ohio State is elite. Michigan is elite. We're trying to get there. It takes more than 1 year to get elite. It takes more than 2 years. I guarantee you, Harbaugh would love Mel Tucker to take a hike. He would love him to take a hike because he is a formidable force and to be reckoned with. And he's proven it. I mean, he's having some issues this year. He'll work it out.
What do you think, Scott?
Yeah, as much as I disagree with Mike's take on Monday on the Tunnelgate incident, I am in lockstep with him, like I am most of the time with his opinions when it comes to Mel Tucker. Obviously this year And what happened on Saturday is not ideal. Nobody's going to sit there and tell you that, for what you're trying to get and where you're trying to go, that this is something that should be par for the course. I don't think anyone would say that. Unlike Rich Rod, there's proof has been provided. What happened last year was a tremendous coaching job by Mel Tucker. He's shown he can do it. So it's not like Rich Rod. Yeah, he had shown it at West Virginia, but he was a disaster from day one at Michigan. So the momentum started to build pretty early. And then as Valente pointed out, there were a lot of internal politics at play with Lloyd Carr and loyalists in that building that weren't helping the Rich Rod program. And in fact, were hurting the Rich Rod program from within. So I'm not worried about Mel Tucker. I think they got a steal in him when they were able to grab him 3 years ago.
Steal for $9 million a year.
Well, I'm saying when they
the first deal,
when they first found him, the contract, it will all come out in the wash.
You got every coach in America.
In 4 years from now, you'll know whether or not he's worth $10 million a year or not. And I'm betting that Michigan State made the right choice, that this year is an aberration. I'm a little bit closer than the average person because of my recruiting beat. In addition to my crime reporting, I do a lot of reporting on blue chip football and basketball recruits. So I'm kind of in the trenches with the players, the recruits, their families, the coaches that are scouting and recruiting them. And from seeing what Tucker's done on the recruiting side of this and seeing him interact with players and talking to those players and talking to those players' parents, Mel Tucker is outstanding at connecting with recruits, filling his classes. Obviously, he's shown an eye for the transfer portal. This year, he might have had a couple misses. I don't know.
That's going to be the name
Jacoby
of that game.
Wyndham did pretty good. He was a transfer portal guy.
I guess I kind of thought Berger and Carruthers might be a little bit more
You need a lot of
dynamic.
You need an offensive line too, boys.
Hey,
Bruce, what I said?
Yeah,
Broussard. I don't know who Carruthers is. I'm sorry. Broussard, I don't know why. Broussard and Berger.
I've watched it too pretty closely. I don't know what you're talking
I'm
about.
sorry. So
it's like Coward talking about Armstrong, the running back for the Bears. Everyone's like, "What the fuck's that?"
So I'm not worried about Mel Tucker, and I agree with Valente that it could be very detrimental to where you're trying to go if everybody is not on board. I
don't know anybody that's off the Tucker train of my friends.
That's one thing I wanted to ask you.
Well, I don't know where he's getting that from.
So maybe I don't have the pulse, but I've seen most of the hate that's coming to Tucker is coming from Michigan. Well, I haven't seen a lot of Michigan State fans that are upset with Tucker.
Here's the key distinction where Valente, he's not wrong, but a little bit off base. By the way, the best sports book I've ever read was John Eubakin's 3 and Out, covering those.
Yes.
The unfettered access is unbelievable.
Yes.
John, go read it. You don't have to be a Michigan fan.
Great book.
Incredible. But the undermining that took place there was at an administrative level. The bitching about Mel Tucker, and particularly with the coordinators, it's now going. It was just Scotty Hazelton on the D side. Now it's Jay Johnson's roped into this as well. It's fan based, and it's not that loud. There's a segment of the fan base that's bitching a lot. There's a large segment bitching about the coordinators. But as far as Mel Tucker, the administrative level, I'm telling you, because I'm sure, Jeff, you and I know a lot of the same people. Uh-huh. There ain't a soul up there that's not completely on board with Mel Tucker. There's not a soul up there that in any position of authority or power or influence that thinks Mel Tucker is 1% less likely to succeed than they thought 12 months ago. So you can call us all stupid. You can call those people ignorant if you want. That everyone has an opinion, but that's the reality. And that's not the case. Rich Rod was fucked. I mean, they were undermining him before he got there. The Bacon book talks about it in great detail.
I'll tell you a story that you don't know, neither one of you know about. I ran for MSU trustee. I lost to the great Brian Masalam. And I got a call from a guy that you probably know, and you probably know. Your audience might not know. Worldwide West. You guys know who Worldwide West is. West thought I won. West thought I was on the board, and he called me with a guy that he said, you got to get rid of D'Antonio. I got the next coach for you. His name is Mel Tucker. He's on the phone with me right now. He was with the Georgia Bulldogs at the time. And I asked him a question. I go, why would you want this job at Michigan State? He said, because I win at Michigan State, I'm a hero. If I win at Ohio State, I win at Michigan, I win at Michigan State. I know what I'm getting into in the Big Ten. I can win. I will be a hero, and I am going to do the job. He wants to win so bad and stick it up OSU's ass and Michigan's ass. Okay, those weren't his words; those are mine. What was the gist of it? At the end of the day, he's a very focused guy. He's a very. I didn't even know how talented he was. They were never gonna fire D'Antonio after he won a Rose Bowl. He had a job for life, just like Izzo. And then he quit. And then the phone calls started coming in. And he was at Colorado, and I was in the middle of it. It was pretty cool, whatever it was. And I only met Mel Tucker. I talked to him on the phone. I've only met Mel one time in my entire life. Okay. He'll own you if you meet him, just like Izzo. He will get a Michigan fan to love him. Believe it or not, he's that good. That's why he can recruit, and that's why he can coach, because he's a believable, good human being. End of story.
We did a show. Ben, throw up that screenshot during the Luke Fickell mess when we're recording them, and I want to bounce that back to you, Jeff, because I'm fascinated for this angle. Michigan State was on fire as a fan base. This was a show I did. I had more hair and was a little skinnier. But it was East Lansing is burning, the Luke Fickell nightmare. This was right after it came out that Fickell was withdrawing, and the rumor of his wife didn't like the culture at Michigan
State. It's a rumor
State.
I heard as well.
So I'm curious, Jeff, because I don't know. I've heard a couple different stories. Brian has told me a version.
Brian's the Bible. There's no doubt about it.
Oh no, I take his word for it. But everyone had a different seat at the table and was in a room that sometimes Brian wasn't in. I mean, your perception of this, you had Tucker on your personal radar as a Michigan State power broker, which you had him on your radar way before D'Antonio retired, is what you just said, right?
Well, at Wes's urging.
Yeah, at Wes's urging.
At Wes's urging.
So for people that don't know, William Wesley, a.k.a. Worldwide West, probably the most influential non-player in
if you're a basketball fan, you know who he is.
By the way,
in the NBA,
Worldwide is the appropriate name for him.
Jalen Rose gave him the nickname.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Jay-Z, shout out to Worldwide West. Everywhere we go, we make a worldwide mess.
He's tight with LeBron, right?
Yeah. He's amazing. And you know what? The most important, he's a good person. And IRS, everybody's come after him. He's clean. Good luck.
And he ended up in people. I remember knowing about who he was, and then I was in a gym doing a scout. And someone said, that's Worldwide West. I said, Worldwide West? Why? What do you mean? He doesn't live in... They're like, he lives in Detroit. I was like... And for people that don't know, he moved to Detroit 20 years ago because he's married to Rip Hamilton's sister.
No, not true. No.
It's not true?
Oh, I heard he came to Detroit because Rip Hamilton was traded here, did not want to come here.
Oh, I thought he was...
And Wes says, you're coming here. And then later on, he met a lady here.
Okay.
He adopted her daughter.
I thought the same thing you did.
He adopted her daughter, and he had a child with her. And he's a tremendous father and a tremendous person. And like everybody else that comes here, they fall in love in Michigan and
West
Detroit.
Bloomfield.
Yeah.
So when that Fickell thing happens, Jeff, I mean, just from your seat, I know you're speaking for yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, Fickell seemed to be clearly the odds-on favorite. It's tough to hide. We all know that he was courted, he was offered, whatever. That seems to be common knowledge. But were you sitting there thinking, man, I got this good referral on this Tucker guy who's sort of next on the list? Like, were you kind of rooting for Tucker?
No, because I don't have the knowledge. I have no history with Fickell or Mel Tucker. I got a phone call from Worldwide West. That's all I knew. He's assistant coach.
It's a hell of a
And he went to Colorado because
referral.
that's who Wes is. He said, Jeff, and by the way, Wes is more of a Michigan fan than he is a State fan. And he said,
he got Michigan that deal with the Air Jordan deal.
Yeah. He said, my Michigan friends are going to hate my guts for getting Mel Tucker over to Michigan State. And it was a tenuous, I'm understood, I was not in the day-to-day stuff. It was a tenuous negotiation because he had a good job at Colorado. I believe his passion was Michigan State all along, obviously. He's here. He got paid more. And end of the day, we'll see. We'll be back at this table a year from now. It'll be a new day.
I mean, he did turn down a raise from Michigan State to stay at Colorado. That's why the shit that he gets, it's like he turned down a nice raise, and then Michigan State doubled back with an even bigger raise. It's like, who's turning down this money?
Nothing wrong.
He didn't lie.
There's nothing wrong with leaving Colorado for Michigan State.
Well, no, but people are saying he said he was coming
No,
back.
I know. I know.
No, that's if I was a Colorado fan, I'd be pissed at him, right?
Well, but it went way beyond Colorado fans. The ESPN was.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, last time I checked, it's a free world. And if a guy doesn't really want to be there, let him go.
It wasn't a lateral
His heart's
move.
not into it, huh?
Not even close. Who are these people turning down like a 120%
Well,
raise?
because he met with the alumni and he said whatever. But if you're watching again, going back to Charlie Chris asked DeSantis, "Would you ever run for president?" He didn't answer the question. Mm-hmm. And Whitmer was asked today, "Would you ever run for president?" And she said, "No, I'm going to be governor for 4 years. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Whatever it is. Like nobody likes being put on the spot, right?" So it is what it is. I mean, people have careers. Things change every day. What I'm going to do tomorrow could change 9 o'clock tomorrow morning and change my mind. I don't want to play golf anymore. Aren't I entitled to make up my own mind what I want to do?
Well, especially when there's a variable change, like we're going to give you $5 million more than you thought or whatever it was.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a significant difference what they raised. So, okay, last thing on Mel, and then we're going to move on to the aforementioned political spear.
Yeah.
Do you have to make some staff changes here?
Yes.
You agree with that much?
Yes.
So you're good on Tucker. What change you making? Valenti's topic today was you can only choose one, Jay Johnson or Hazelton. Which one goes? I mean, what are you doing?
Well, I didn't have any issue with the offense until that 4th and 1 call in the Michigan game in the first half.
Right.
So, I mean, right now I'm axing Hazelton. I think the Michigan State offense can figure it out, and I've seen what I need to see. I've seen what I need to see from them. That offense has the ability to, be pretty high octane. The defense is just a disaster.
I'm bringing them both back. What are you doing, Jeff?
Bringing them both back.
Jeff, I can't believe I found out. I'm the only one. Yeah, I was the only one. You and I are the only two. I don't think they're.
What did Brian say, or he doesn't? Did you ask him?
I've not talked to Brian about the staff changes, actually, so I don't know. He's an incomplete on that test. But everyone says one or both of them got to go. The defense is actually playing better now that they have some bodies back. And the offense, one of the best offenses in the country last year. You can chalk it up to K9 all you want, and that's not necessarily unfair. I got to see a little bit larger sample size of ineptitude than I've seen. It's fire everybody all the time.
Hire Aaron Glenn for the defense.
They mentioned
I'm good
something.
on that. I'll pass it.
Valente mentioned something on the radio today that I agree with in terms of the offenses. And you can hit the siren, Ben, and I am partial because I know some of these kids since they were younger. But Trey Mosley, you got to get him involved more.
I agree. Where is he? Seriously.
To me, Trey Mosley is a star waiting
what the answer is?
Break out.
We don't know when you watch TV, or maybe is he open or isn't he open? I don't know.
Well, sometimes
he's not getting enough targets.
Yeah, he's not even really out there.
Yeah.
I mean, Valente's thing was you got to scheme some guys.
By the way,
open.
do you have private conversations with him ever or no?
Yeah.
So, okay, you don't have to mention it on the air. We don't get the kid in trouble. So
yeah.
Okay.
No, Trey's a great kid. Again, I've known him since he was 14. Just like Donovan.
You breastfed him.
A lot of those they call, it's, I digress, but I'll just throw out for 30 seconds and give a shout out to, we'll give some love to Michigan. Ron Bellamy, the wide receivers coach at University of Michigan.
Who got him the job at West Bloomfield?
Mr. Sakwa over here installed him at West Bloomfield High School in the late 2000s. And that was a football program that was the definition of a bottom dweller and irrelevant for its entire existence for 50 years. And in a matter of a decade, Ronnie Bellamy turned that program not just into a state title contender, but into a national brand, a national recruiting brand.
And I'm going to tell you one thing you're missing big time. The grade points went up big time. That's impressive.
And
because that's more important, and because 99% of those kids don't even go to play football in college. You don't get good grades. You don't play. End of story.
I was sad he left for Michigan.
And they call themselves, the L Boys, and the name of they've named their field the Swamp, and it's kind of got this like the U in the when the U kind of became a fraternity, like a football fraternity.
You got Orchard Lake Road with traffic on a Friday night.
I would have never guessed that from West Bloomfield growing up, like in that
Exactly.
05, like when I was graduating.
They were such a.
And by the way, you're missing John Harrington took a hike. That didn't hurt him any either.
Yeah, well, they got a lot of those Harrison kids, but
So-
the way that but shout out to Bellamy, but that's where Trey Mosley comes from. That's where Donovan Edwards comes from. That's where Dylan Tatum comes from, and it's a great program. And they've been churning out blue chip recruits now for over a decade. And to Jeff's point, yes, they're great football players. Yes, they're guys that are getting it down in the classroom. But almost every single one of those blue chip kids, and I've had to deal with over the last 10 to 15 years, a lot of prima donna 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds. And every one of these blue chip West Bloomfield kids are it's yes, sir. Thank you, sir. It's, I send them a text. They text me back within 10 minutes. I'm not chasing them for interviews. They're just really high character kids. And that's a tribute to Coach Bellamy and what he's done. Now he's at Michigan and he's kind of developing a pipeline.
Yeah, I'm not happy about it. So we'll put a button on Michigan State. I want to move. We have very rarely, it's very seldom that we have a political power broker and power player in the studio. But Jeff, you certainly constitute that.
I don't know about that. But,
Well, there's a little thing coming up next week, so I want to give the political angle here some attention. Let's just take a brief look at some of the highlights from the Tudor Dixon Gretchen Whitmer debate from a few days ago.
That was pretty good, don't you think?
I thought it was pretty rocking.
Yeah.
Let's let the audience get a glimpse of that.
Tonight, I think you'll hear a lot of divisive rhetoric and misinformation and a focus on the past from my opponent. I'll try to stay focused on our shared future.
I'm running for governor because Gretchen Whitmer has taken us on the wrong track. She's pushed a radical, progressive, social agenda, and she hasn't listened to the problems you have every single day. Yeah, it's unfortunate that we're not being honest about what Proposal 3 is. The governor has just been dishonest with you in her very first answer, but it would be the most radical abortion law in the entire country. The only place that has something similar are China and North Korea.
None of what she just said is true. And here's why you can't trust anything she's saying when it comes to reproductive rights. She's the one that said a 14-year-old child raped by her uncle is a perfect example of someone who should not have reproductive rights and the ability to choose.
Well, I've heard several times from Gretchen Whitmer that she'll work with anyone on anything and that she's bipartisan, but she's actually vetoed quite a bit of opportunity to put money back into the pockets of the people.
Mrs. Dixon says that I kept students out longer than any other state. That's just not true. I worked closely with my Republican and Democratic governors, and kids were out for 3 months.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I just heard an audible gasp around town when Gretchen Whitmer said that kids were out of school for 3 months. Perhaps she wasn't paying attention to what was actually happening. We even had schools that were closed this year. This is shocking to me.
All right, so ran a little long, but I wanted to give a decent sampling of both sides here. So less than a week remaining before this decision is at our doorstep in the state of Michigan. I got to be honest, I gave Tudor Dixon zero shot when she was nominated. You have the inherent advantage of the incumbent, which is the case no matter what. That's always there.
History shows it.
Yep. That's a tough hill to climb. And she didn't have enough juice for me. I am stunned that some of the polling now has this essentially as a dead heat, some a little bit above, for Whitmer, vice versa. I did not give her any shot. Now where it looks like borderline a coin flip or thereabouts, with the polls in a virtual dead heat, where do you guys see this one going? I want to start with you, Jeff. What happens in, it's 5 days for those watching live. I mean, it's on the doorstep here. What happens in 5 days?
I don't know. I mean, the greatest sport in the world, guys, is politics. It's 365 days a year if you're into it. Everybody should be into it, and I'll tell you why. Every day we live with what these people put policies in place. And then when you get bit by it, you complain about it. So get involved, be part of the solution, and quit bitching about it and get involved. From the school board all the way up to the governor, vote. It's your opportunity to vote. People come here every day, illegally too, to the greatest country in the world. So getting bit. So what happened? So I'm going to let you in with something that I heard. I'm not going to tell you from who. So what I struggled with, there's not one person past or present legislator that ran against Gretchen Whitmer, right? All those guys. You had a chiropractor who I never met. You had a I don't know what the other guys. A realtor, I believe, Kelly and Saldano. I never met any of them. And Tudor, I've met. None of them have any political experience. Okay, but what happened is, I think the guys in legislature didn't want to get trumped. What I mean by that, they would go out, campaign, and all of a sudden he kings somebody else. They're done. They're done. When she got his endorsement, the game was over. Love him or hate him, he queened her, I guess maybe that's the correct thing to say. And the woman can talk. You just saw it. She handled herself and by the way, so does Gretchen Whitmer. And I got to say something, I mean it from the bottom of my heart. I like 2 women running for office. I think that tells you a lot where we're at today as a society. And women are in power. Women should have a voice. And you know what? Doesn't bother me that we have 2 females running in any way, shape, or form because I think they're good enough and they've proven it. So there was no money behind the DeVosses. Probably got involved originally to try to make sure some of the state reps kept their races so Republicans could keep the House. And lo and behold, Whitmer has a record to run on. So the only thing where I really disagree with on her whole thing, she went it alone for a very long time on COVID. Whether she was right or wrong, I don't believe anything she did was dealt intentionally to hurt anybody or anything she did what she thought was right. However, she did it alone until the Supreme Court told her, So if I were her, I would have had the legislator with me and said, well, it was us together, but now she's got a report card. So if you're a laid off restaurant worker or another person, or you can't get the chips here, or you couldn't visit your family in a nursing home, that's her record. Whether she was right or wrong, that's her record. Tudor Dixon, they don't know very much about her. She's got a clean slate. So when you're running for re-election, there's a report card. I would argue that when Trump won, he didn't win. People hated Hillary. When Biden won, they hated Trump. This could very easily be an indication that people are pissed at Whitmer and Tudor wins. So it seems a lot in this country going on these days is like the lesser in people's opinion of 2 evils. I'm shocked at how close it is. I'm shocked. And I talked to friends, and I had Governor Engler came out to me at a football game and bet me that she was going to win. Did you know Governor Engler was down 17 points?
I was about to throw that out there.
The Sunday before the election, and he won. He also won 3 terms.
1990. I was about to say this reminds me a little bit. I mean, I was a kid, but I was still aware of what was going on. The 1990 gubernatorial election, where coming into the election, it looked like everyone was predicting Jim Blanchard, who had been a pretty popular governor, was going to sweep into office for a 3rd term. And at the end of the election, John Engler had pulled the major upset and then stayed in office for over a decade.
Became president of MSU.
Right. Yeah, for a minute.
Yeah.
So
no controversy there.
I am someone who's pretty open about my lack of a party affiliation. I would call a left-leaning centrist, probably. I've voted Democrat in most elections, not uniform. And but I probably lean a little bit left, but I would not consider myself a member of the Democratic Party, and I'm very critical of the Democratic Party, just like I am very critical of the Republican Party. All due respect to the man on my left here.
Yeah. You'd be surprised, my friend. But go ahead.
But I will say that I was open to voting against Gretchen Whitmer. A year ago or a year and a half ago, I was not going to be tied to her blind loyalty wise because she was a more left. But I have to vote for her. I could not cast a vote for Tudor Dixon, really just based on some of these crazy comments related to abortion. And
so let me ask you a question on that. I'm not disagreeing on that. So she's on record as saying, and this is emphatically true, that bill passes as part of the Constitution. She's irrelevant what her feelings are on abortion, period.
But let me
and it goes same thing for Whitmer. If it doesn't, it's the people are voting. What's more fair than the people voting? So at the end of the day, I just think there's more issues than abortion. I'm a male, obviously, but I think there's more issues if you That's your issue. God bless you.
But I think it goes to someone's moral fiber when I hear her say something about rape being a blessing or can be a blessing.
I'm not saying I'm pro-life or pro-choice, but why can't someone have an opinion? And that's what they believe.
They can. You know? It just put me off to her. But I am from someone.
I drive here today. I see all these churches with their signs. It goes too far. If you're religious, that's what you believe. If you're not religious, I don't have a problem with either side what they believe. I'm just going to vote the way I want to vote. I had to write a term paper my freshman year at Michigan State on abortion. I got to be honest with you. My head was spinning. You know, when you're a judge, and I know a lot of judges, I ask them what the favorite part of their job is, changing their mind. You have good lawyers get up there, probably not Mr. Mars or whatever, get up there, and they hear one thing, and at the end of the case, they've been swayed by good lawyering. So I myself, am not going to put myself in someone else's shoes and legislate what they need to do.
I was playing prognosticator 2 years ago. I was thinking that Jim Craig would be the Republican nominee. He obviously didn't do a very good job of planting the roots and the seeds of building a campaign. He really screwed that up and made it so he couldn't even get on the ballot and so forth. But I think he would have been a good candidate if he could have had the right people around him.
What do you think actually happens on Tuesday, though?
I think
I have no idea. I wish I could. I'm shocked by it.
If Tudor Dixon wins, I'm going to be buying a lot of lunches and dinners. I'm going to be out a few dollars.
I'm shocked that we're here where we are. Yeah. But as much as I will critique Tudor Dixon for really just that one belief that I have such an issue with, I give her and her team credit for what they've been able to do over these last couple months. I mean, I studied politics in college. I have a political science degree.
It's very simple what happened here. Okay, she had no money to get on the air. She was hammered on abortion. Hammer. Gasoline prices are going up. The economy's shitty. And I think just if you watch what happened over this, Roe versus Wade was a gift to the Democrats, okay? And then as the summer goes on, things get worse.
The timing of that was so strange.
Well, someone stole the
leak,
opinion.
you mean?
Yeah, the leak.
Whether it was a leak or not, the opinion came down. It would just people would have freaked out 2 months later.
It's what's your issue? Is it one issue? Is it two issues? Is it three issues? I'll tell you right now, I'm not going to vote for someone just because they're Republican. I'm not going to vote for someone because they're not. I got to hear what they have to say. And you have other things on the ballot. You have Proposal 1, 2, 3. You have Supreme Court races. You have all kinds of these affect our lives every single day, and no one knows about them, and that's pathetic.
But you're a vice chair of the GOP. You're going straight ticket.
I am not the co-chair of the GOP. I was in 2016. This is 2022.
But your chops, though, that's your background, though. I mean, you're not going to go straight ticket?
Am I going to vote straight ticket?
Yeah,
absolutely not.
I believe you. I'm honestly, I feel like you're atypical.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
You don't get my vote by having an R in front of your name.
Yeah. I respect that. I'm like Scott. I mean, I've kind of gone both ways, honestly.
I heard that about you.
Yeah, I stepped right into that trap, too. There's no way around that one.
I think,
by the way, to each his own.
Yeah. Another just small digression here for 1 second. I don't think Gretchen Whitmer intends on staying in the state of Michigan. I mean, I think in 2024 she's going to be in Washington.
If she can barely win Michigan, how the hell is she going to?
Well, not as president. I mean, you mean
I don't. I mean, in the I mean,
yeah. I think she has a national aspiration. Yeah.
I'll make a prediction here. You hear it here first. The next governor of the state of Michigan, Mike Duggan, after this election.
I mean, possible. It's mixed reviews in Detroit, but
I gotta go to the little boys' room.
Well, the national perspective, and of all people, I never. Oh yeah, you can go ahead. You are not the first.
Wow.
Believe me, I think it's like every fourth time someone has a. You're right there.
I'm at that age.
No, you're good. You're good. Not atypical. So yeah, for those who aren't on video, it's a quick bathroom break. But yeah. Hopefully the cat's not in there. So Jeff has excused himself. Hopefully nothing too serious. But Colin Cowherd, of all people, came out today with a 2-tweet sequence, and I was astonished that he came out this brazenly, especially as he's living in California. But Ben, if you can run that real quick, he had a lot of pushback for this. Quote, "Red wave is coming on Tuesday. Don't mess with people's kids. It lands differently, and they will hold a grudge. Can't blame them. That's my TED Talk. He predictably got pushback. Someone replied to him saying, "Oh, you're going to get dragged for this," or whatever. His response to that was, "Couldn't give two fucks. I lean mostly left, but data clearly proved kids 18 and under were safe, yet they were held out of schools. Test scores have plummeted, suicides have risen, chaos for parents. Just a sad reality of ignoring data. A price will be paid and hopefully a lesson learned." Jeff mentioned in so many words that the last few elections seem to have been a referendum on the person that we liked less. I think what Coward says there is true. Whether or not you think it's fair, that's another story. The perception, I think, objectively is Democrats and their blue states handled COVID worse than the red states did. There's people that'll push back on that, but the data, particularly surrounding minors, kids being held back from school, to me is scientifically, objectively demonstrated that we were overkill there. Can you pop that door closed, Jeff?
The record show I wash my hands.
Oh, you're good. You're good. We still want to be, we'll be echoing to eternity if that door's not closed. So, but my point is, I think there are legitimate reasons to back sort of what Coward is saying, is that I think on a national level, this perception of a red wave incoming
It's going to happen.
is going to happen.
It's going to happen.
You buy that, Scott.
Yes.
Why do you think? Do you agree with the reason why it's
I
coming?
think the Democratic Party is incredibly out of touch with mainstream America.
How so?
Just what we saw, our president addressed the nation yesterday, and what he said wasn't wrong, but he said it already. He said it 2 months ago. It's a message that unfortunately isn't resonating with the people that he wants it to resonate with.
What was the message for those that don't know? I mean, I
that
watched
the democracy is at stake. That the Republican Party
Both sides say that.
you got to move way closer.
Right.
We'll never hear you.
Both sides say that.
Yeah, well, democracy, it's always the most important election ever. Democracy's going to die if you don't vote for my guy. I'm so the alarmist shit. I'm so done
Yes.
with. I'm tired of it.
But
You know what I'm tired of? I'm going to be honest with you. I'm tired of hypocrisy.
yes,
I'm tired of hypocrisy.
it's
ludicrous,
incredibly rich
and
on both
fringe,
sides.
And the fringe on both sides
Yeah.
running our country, because I know if I got in a room with, I have friends, we can make a deal in 5 minutes. It's like, God damn it. When Tip O'Neill would hang out with Ronald
Right.
Reagan and go cut a deal, like, you know what? People, you're not going to get 100. You're married, right?
Yep.
Okay, you're married. You get 100%.
No, I mean, 50 would be a huge victory.
Well, whatever. You're working it out. You got
Yeah.
a nice house here. I think you want to keep it. But
ideally.
yeah. If she gets your studio, you won't be real happy.
No, that'll be.
But at the end of the day, work. People need to work together, and people need to be fair, and people need to be respectful. It's probably pie in the sky, but I'll tell you what, I'm going to do it every day. Wake up and just like we're doing right now with Michigan fans, same damn thing. Hypocrisy's got to go. Hypocrisy.
Joe Biden is the accidental president.
You don't think Donald Trump was the accidental president?
Oh, he was the accidental president
I just told
too.
you, it's people are voting for the quote unquote. Didn't want Hillary. They voted for.
And I voted for Biden.
Oh.
But I had a very difficult time casting a vote for Biden because I knew who Joe Biden was, and I was screaming for years before, not years, but let's say for the 2 years or the year leading up to the election, I kept, if Joe Biden was meant to be president, he would have been president already. The guy first ran for president in 1988 when I was 11 years old.
Yeah, they ran out of bodies. It
Right.
felt like.
They don't have a bench. The best thing going for him is the vice president, right?
They're both a mess. It's scary.
She
it's
is.
scary to think what they're gonna have to come up with in 2024.
Nobody, Democrats don't like Kamala Harris.
You can criticize Trump, okay, and God knows I haven't. Well, he was spot on the border. He was spot on. Nothing happened with Russia. He bombed Syria. Nothing happened. He made peace.
He's just such a toxic human being.
That's not my point. So if I was Joe Biden, I would have come in. I would have kept his policy, and what he did with the board. I would have kept a lot of his policies. That's what I would have done. And closing down the pipeline the first day, just to stick it up his ass, in my opinion, and do the thing at the border was just tit for tat. The other day, so you tell me it's okay to go get gas overseas. Last time I checked, Venezuelan gas makes pollution. Everything makes pollution.
I can't wait until the books start to roll out in 4 years or 3 years about what's going on behind the scenes here. Because who's handling this guy?
Yeah.
I'm talking about Joe Biden.
Yeah.
His team around, as bad as he is, his team's 10 times worse.
Let me give you a perfect example of something. The lady that he appointed to Supreme Court, I'm going to assume she's qualified. So he wanted to get a black female. Do it. Don't tell me you're doing it. That insults every other person who ever went to law school and studied hard and worked hard.
I think it
You're
insults
not
the
getting
actual
the job.
person, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you know what? Diversity, inclusiveness, okay. But the Supreme Court thing with Harvard and the Asians is going to be a very interesting decision, isn't it?
We agree the red wave's coming, so that's unanimous.
Okay, yeah.
Where was
It
the
may not come in Michigan. We're going to find out.
Well, it's just
So,
on a national scale.
Yeah.
But I mean, in general,
Well, here's something very interesting, by the way, stat you guys don't know about. You do know he didn't pay. So when Trump lost, the Republicans kept every single seat in Congress, and in fact gained some. During Trump lost, but everybody
In
else
20.
won it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I believe because of policies.
Do you think the miscalculation here on the Democrats' part is, to me, that's a long answer. My opinion is they still blame Trump for everything. It's just he's the boogeyman, which is just
Boogeyman politics is bad.
By
No matter
the way,
who's spewing
by the
it.
way, you
Well,
notice he hasn't been here for Tudor. Do you think that's calculated?
But I don't know. But I mean,
I don't know.
He was here.
He's
a couple months
he
ago.
rallied once. I
In
think.
Warren.
By the way, it's gotten very close. He's not here.
Yeah,
Right.
It's valid.
Yeah.
I don't
Telling him to stay away.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know. I didn't even think about that. I do know
he lost.
was it Warren that he popped through. I remember
Yeah.
he was here at some point.
It was like a month
Right
ago.
after she won. You know,
Right, won the nomination.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they've made a number of miscalculations. At the same time, this seems like the natural ebb and flow.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's no matter what the Democrats did, it's always going to kind of rock back and forth, right? I mean,
But we have kind of unprecedented times in the sense that we have a president that's pushing 80 who
It's going to be a
there
West
are
Bloomfield
all-
convalescent.
there
period.
are
the Democrats want him out too. I don't buy it.
I agree.
Yeah.
But that's part of the problem.
Well,
if
we
if
could
you're,
read a poll, but he doesn't
if
have.
you're analyzing what's going
Yeah.
on from the Democratic Party, the issue is that you have like 3 factions of the Democratic Party right now.
And so do the Republicans.
Right. So, but they have, like you say, like him or hate him, and I hate him. But Donald Trump is a force of nature, of a human being, of a politician. He has complete control over that party.
What would you do if he hired Mr. Mars to be his lawyer?
I didn't vote for Trump.
See, I think
But
it's inevitable. Trump's going to be indicted. I think by early 23.
Trump's had been caught by the tail 6,000 times, and he's still pimping.
I'll make a prediction. I think everyone's looking at it as, it's going to be January 6th. It's going to be Mar-a-Lago. It's going to be all of it. I think they're coming with a RICO.
Yeah,
I think they're going to hit him with January 6th,
he's been
Mar-a-Lago, and fundraising scams all in one racketeering.
I heard a rumor state's hiring to be the defensive coordinator.
Yeah, I will
Or Pompeo. I don't
give him
know.
a shot. Well, I don't know. I mean, he might be more unifying than the current one. All right, we'll move past that. Let's get into our speed round, and there'll be a little bit of politics here, so it'll be a brief continuation. Speed round, Ben, dial it up. We're gonna hit some topics here.
Speed round like when you were a freshman in college and studying for finals, that kind of speed?
Similar. Yeah, hopefully a little bit faster tonight. So we'll start here, Ben. And again, there's going to be some politics, and I kind of dove all over the place. But
That was fun.
the best president in your lifetime. You're both older than me. You have a different perspective. We'll start with you, Scott. Best president in your lifetime, in your opinion.
Well, I'm a big Bill Clinton fan, but I'm also a big Ronald Reagan fan, which I think kind of speaks to my duality. So
Who you rolling with, though? You got to pick one.
got to pick one. I mean, I'll go with Clinton, but it's so idyllic for me to think back to my childhood in the 80s, where it was just Ronald Reagan was and maybe this was the thought process of an 8-year-old, but it was just Ronald Reagan's our president. He wasn't a Democrat. He wasn't a Republican. He was just
The president.
and then the tribalism just seemed so benign.
It's a
and
lightning round. You're going too long.
Yeah. That's good. It's good. What do you got, Jeff? Who's your best
Easy,
president?
Reagan. Simple.
Yeah.
He
That'd
won
be my
49.
dad's
He
answer.
won 49 out of 50 states. Yeah.
Yeah, he was a tank for sure.
Yeah.
This is
His wife did a very nice job.
Yeah, right. She did. This is self-indulgent. This is for me, not for you guys. I gotta know, especially Scott, because you're into this kind of shit. Who killed JFK, Scott?
I mean, specifically, or who was the head of the conspiracy? I mean, I think that
honestly, I'm even more.
I think
interested.
the mafia and the CIA conspired to murder.
So not Oswald acting alone.
No.
Okay, I love you even more. I was going to be disappointed. Jeff.
No idea. Lee Harvey Oswald.
Well, acting alone though.
Pardon me?
Oswald acting alone.
You know, I don't know. I'm fascinated with that and Hoffa. I'm fascinated with both of them.
Oh, he already knows what happened to Hoffa.
Yeah. We'll talk about that off there. But you know, it's.
Oswald was a CIA asset.
That's a fact.
Right.
Yeah. There's like paper. We have the papers on that.
That's scary stuff. But
So
look what you're having now with you know with you know. I'm going to say something going back to the political thing. You guys probably don't even remember when Trump won. There's a million quotes of Hillary saying he stole the election.
I know.
This is nothing.
Everyone's
new.
a hypocrite.
Everyone's a freaking hypocrite. It's got to stop. And when the election's over, it's over. You know. But I don't know. I was 6 years old.
We'll do the big JFK episode next time, Scott.
Yeah.
Now I'm into it. Now I didn't realize I had a fellow intelligent person on board with me there. So I can't stand.
I can give you. There's so many academics that I know that just laugh at the notion that people that there's this mainstream narrative that still exists that it's a one man job.
That's ridiculous. Yeah. It's been disproven by the Josiah Thompson book. But okay, I digress. We touched on it a little bit. Biden Harris 2024. Not if they're going to win. Is that the ticket in 2024?
I don't think it is.
You don't think it is?
I think we'll have a totally fresh ticket.
0 for 2.
Yeah.
They're going to be forced out because they're not stepping down voluntarily.
No,
Harris is going to want to step over Biden's dead body, metaphorical.
She doesn't have the polling. I mean,
Well, no, nobody. The Democrats don't like her. What do you think, Jeff?
I don't know who they got. I mean, you can't really. Beto's going to run for his third. I mean, I don't know.
So you think it's going to be? They're going to prop him back up there?
I don't know who they. Again, I don't know who they got.
It's a default.
By the way, you saw those debates. You know,
I say
Bernie's going to go back to being an independent. I don't know.
I say this mostly in jest, but there's a small sliver of me that actually believes this. I think there's one person that could save democracy.
Can I guess?
Yeah, Mel Tucker.
Oh, I have a couple guesses. You're going to say either Oprah, or Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Yes, The Rock.
All right.
I think The Rock could unite our country.
That's been out there, I mean, Kid Rock was also on the other side of the ticket for a minute.
You can go watch my interview on Vice News about Kid Rock.
I didn't know you did that dance already.
Yeah, no, it was opening night at LCA. It was fun,
Yeah, well, I was there at that show too,
Yeah.
but I'm going to get canceled because I admit that I like some Kid Rock music. But
I have no issue. I love myself some
I don't cancel
old school Kid Rock.
I don't cancel anyone.
I grew up a big Kid Rock fan. I don't really love what he's turned into. I question the business aspect of it, but I think he's reached a point where he has so much money he doesn't care.
The song doesn't get worse because the guy voted a certain way. It's such
would you listen to a Kanye song, or would you go to his concert?
I think as I get further away from it, I found myself the other day asking myself this question, and a Michael Jackson song came on the radio, and I was
there's a guy never got canceled. I don't understand.
And I said, so I think if we get further away from it, I'll be okay listening to Kanye music. Recently, I've been driving, and before 3 weeks ago,
listen to Valente.
If a Kanye song came on the radio or on my Sirius, I would turn it up. And the last couple of times it's come on my Pandora or my radio, I've turned it off. So. But I think there will be a time eventually where I can listen to Kanye music.
Yeah, I'm not affected by that stuff. If the song's good, the song's good.
Song is good.
Yeah, let's jump across the aisle. I think it's a 2-horse race on the other side. Trump or DeSantis. I mean, maybe you can throw in a third wild card.
I think DeSantis who's going to run?
Well, Trump's not going to run as the VP, and DeSantis isn't going to leave his executive position.
Is going to run. I think DeSantis is going to be the Republican nominee in 24. That's my prediction.
As president, not VP.
Not as
because he's not going to leave that.
None of those guys are taking a second fiddle to anybody.
No, exactly. That's the point.
Yeah.
So you think it's DeSantis? Who do you got, Jeff?
I, for a long time, thought that Trump would back out because he'll do the math and figure out he can't win. And I think anybody beats Biden except for Trump.
Yeah, I think DeSantis would destroy Biden.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd be looking at
and
top
his
5
ego, will his ego let him drop out? Got to be done the right way. It's like Putin. You got to give the guy. How do you get rid of Putin? I don't have the answer. None of us does. But you got to make him think like he won something. If he wants to be the kingmaker, whatever it is. But there's not. Did you read Paul Ryan's article last week?
I did not.
He said Trump can't win.
I read it.
Yeah. And I think there's enough people in the Republican Party who aren't going to vote for him under any circumstances. So that breaks up the party. And if, oh my God, you gave it, well, they're that's what they think. Just like people were pissed off at Hillary and gave it to Trump. He had the whole Lincoln Project last time. He did, by the way.
Oh, those bunch of charlatans. Yeah. They told Trump he couldn't win in 2015, though, and he's going to know that.
2016, by the way, not 15.
No, in 2015.
Oh, they told him in 2015.
Yeah, the election
I'm going to tell you a story, okay? In 2015, did you know that Michigan was his first stop in the entire campaign trail?
I did not know that.
Birch Run, Michigan. I met him backstage. I was told to introduce him because the people that you got, we'll mention names here, the people with the big money, who do you think they wanted to win?
Either Jeb or Marco Rubio.
You're very good. It was Jeb because they already had access through the other Bushes, right?
It's the old guard.
Right, the old guard. So he took him out. I think he was the first one he took out. And I was backstage with him, and he asked me a very important question, Donald Trump. Where's the closest McDonald's? That's 100% true story. And, of course, I said, I don't know. I don't live near Birch Run, but it's 100% true story. And by the way, election day, I'll unequivocally tell you, I thought we were going to get our asses kicked, and he won. I was shocked.
Macomb County possibly gave him the presidency.
Not possibly, they did.
Right.
Yeah, they did. So at the end of the day, you never know. It's just like we said about compared to sports.
Hillary was so arrogant. She was so arrogant. The way they ran that campaign.
She came to. It's a swing state. She came here one time.
Oh my God.
They had a great. It was a neutral graphic, but they had a graphic on like the campaign trail. It was like a calendar, and it had like days that Trump was somewhere and days that Hillary was somewhere. It was like a 3-to-1 ratio, like a 3.5-to-1 ratio. Like she was just off.
If Hillary just would have done a Howard Stern interview, I think that could have.
He hammered her for that. You know, she did it after she lost.
It was true though.
Yeah,
he could have reached a lot of people.
Yeah,
and become. He could have humanized her to a lot of people.
I saw Chris Rock in concert a few weeks ago. He's got a whole bit on it. It's very, very, very funny.
Yeah. Anyone hit him when he was up there?
No, but he did. By the way, so people ask me, did it hurt that he hit me? He goes, that motherfucker played Muhammad Ali. Yeah, it hurt.
It looked like a hell of a blow. I mean, that did not look like a just kind of backhanded slap. I mean, that Will really cranked him there.
So I get to ask the question: Chris Rock or Dave Chappelle?
You know what? As a 45-year-old man, I say Dave Chappelle. I was such a huge Chris Rock fan growing up, so I probably would have said Chris Rock up until maybe 5 years ago.
What do you say?
I like Chappelle, but I like them both.
Yeah.
I mean, Chris Rock's a little bit kind of like bouncing off the walls, high energy. Hey, Chappelle's a little more like, not that Chris Rock's not real. He'll shoot you straight too, but Chappelle just seems a little more grounded to me, which is more my style. But I mean, they're both awesome. Yeah. They're two of the top 5 or 6. You know, what are you going to get like Lenny Bruce in the 50s? Like, you know, what are you going to do? I think two titans.
Chris Rock breaking out like he did in the late 90s paved the groundwork for Dave Chappelle to break out.
Yeah,
because
that's fair.
Chappelle and Rock were both around for decade plus before they became household names.
Yeah, you had Half Baked in '98, and that was like 5 or 6 years before Chappelle's show. Yeah, no doubt. All right, I'm going to go to the experts here. Well, this will be the last one. I'm going to stay out of it. Best Jewish deli in Michigan. We got two of the tribesmen here.
Well, where does Zingerman's? Is that considered?
It's a Jewish
deli.
It is.
Last time I checked, it's in Michigan.
I mean,
to me, that's
stage is my go-to.
You're a stage guy.
I mean, because I just grew up going to the stage, and
shout out to the Goldberg family.
Staple.
Stage.
So you're a stage guy.
Stage.
But when I'm in Ann Arbor, I always got to stop at Zingerman's. I just don't know if it's not
overrated.
It's not a Jewish deli the way that.
By the way, do you think it's overrated or not?
I think it's overpriced. Okay. So in that sense, it's overrated. But I mean, it's a good for a $20 sandwich that should be $10. It's good.
Oh, come on, Ben. If they say anything more bad about Zingerman's, cut their mics, please. I'm a huge Zingerman's guy.
No, I love Zingerman's. Yeah,
I heard their mail order business through the roof.
it's just not.
They do have a good mail.
I wouldn't say it's a Jewish deli, so that's why I would.
I mean,
I mean, yes, it is.
Zingerman's.
It is, but
it's not
the same way that like
not a bunch of Mormons running that.
The way that Steve's is or the Stage is or
I know what you're saying. There's a distinction there.
Yeah.
Stage is awesome. It took me 10 years to get past. I was like 7 years old. They had that coleslaw, like E. coli outbreak. I don't know if you even remember that, but
yeah.
that was like a huge thing. So it took me 10 years to like get past
And
that.
I remember, I'm so old, I remember going...
You're old. Jeez.
I remember before the stage that we go to now...
9 Mile Road.
The one in Oak Park, until I was like 6 or 7, going... As a little kid, I remember going to that stage. And that was the stage where my dad grew
You'll
up.
always be a little kid to me.
You'll see a lot of media dignitaries there. That's where I had lunch with John Nile and Wojo. And it's like all those 97.1 guys are there a lot.
And from my other
Stoney,
world of crime
Joe.
crime reporting, the reputed mafia boss of Detroit is a frequent customer at the stage.
Yeah, you would know. You get these.
He's there. He's there every morning. Thursday.
You're saying names.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Yeah, Jack Giacalone. You know.
Oh yeah, we talked about.
Yeah, I ain't got no problem talking about.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We talked. That was a great topic last time. All right, guys. I think we're good. I mean, that was almost an hour and a half. I don't want to take up too much.
Which one's
of your
my
time.
bedroom here?
I can pull that couch out for you.
I just want to throw this out and give Jeff a shout out for this because it's something that I literally have just learned kind of more recently, even though I've known Jeff for 30 years. Jeff owned a nightclub in Detroit in the 1980s.
84, 2 nightclubs.
But Cheeks, if you look it up on the internet, this was really the place that birthed EDM. What's
EDM?
Electric dance music. You don't even know this about
It's a popular.
You don't even know this about your own place.
You invented it. And
I thought I had a bad itch or something. I know what EDM was.
And it's considered like in the world of music, Cheeks is considered a pretty iconic
like
Detroit club.
It was Studio 54.
Right,
Detroit,
and it was a lot of celebrities, a lot of athletes, but specifically everyone looks at obviously Motown and Eminem and the White Stripes and whatever. And I'm not a fan of electric dance music at all, but I know there's a huge following of it. Yeah. There's a festival that they have at Hart Plaza every year, and people around the globe. And Detroit was the birthplace of it, and it started at the nightclub that Jeff owned.
Well, speaking of the White Stripes, I mean, that was the height of the cocaine era.
Yeah.
Owning a club, and
I was going to say you must have seen
you're
some.
talking to a guy. You have the camera's on me. Never smoked a joint. Never done.
Well, I'm not saying you, but
and I don't drink, but I saw a lot of it.
Yeah.
To the point where I said, I'm not doing it. So,
well, no, I'm not.
Were you implicating you?
But I'm saying
were you
probably
booking
saw some
acts
shit
there though? Were there?
No, we booked. I'll tell you who we booked. Weird Al Yankovic. Okay.
Yeah.
We booked Tiny Tim. Lost money. Can't remember who else we had. We had some girls from New York. They were hot.
Any non-Jewish.
By the way,
by
the way, don't want to brag. Took Tiny Tim and that girl band. I forgot their name. We took them to the stage.
Tiny Tim's the little like banjo or whatever guy, right?
Yeah, he was.
Go-Go's?
No, they weren't the Go-Go's or something like that. But we tried to do. We weren't big enough to do concerts. It wasn't big enough to do concerts. But
that's how he hooked up with a lot. You teased it before. We'll just end with this. When I met Jeff, he was someone that was spending a lot of time hanging out with those bad boys Pistons. And that group of professional athletes, to me, it meant so much to me. I'm a sports fanatic now, and I became a sports fanatic because of those bad boy Piston teams. They're my all-time favorite sports era. And Jeff was really in the epicenter of it. And as a 10, 11, 12-year-old kid, knowing at that time, knowing that getting to turn on the television as the Pistons are winning the championship and seeing Jeff in the locker room with them.
A highlight of my life. So I'm going to say this to you.
It was pretty cool.
What I learned from those guys, like, sports is life, right? Somebody gets cancer, they get a bad break. They get whatever is bad call by the referee, you got to deal with it. What I learned from those guys is every one of those guys, and I'll swear, fucking hated to lose a game. They fucking hated to lose, and that's why they won.
And it still drives me crazy to this day.
I'm not sure professional athletes today care about winning or not. They may go.
They're hugging each other.
And I say this with all due respect to Chauncey Billups and Ben Wallace.
But
all due respect. But when people try to compare those two eras, that is offensive.
Ooh. I wasn't around for both of them.
The Bad Boys, if you took the Going to Work Pistons and the Bad Boys Pistons in their primes and you put them in a 7-game series, the bad boys sweep them. The going to work Pistons don't win a game. So this belief that some people have, and it's a recency bias, that they're somehow on equal footing. And let me also
who's a better coach between Larry Brown and Chuck?
Chuck.
Okay.
Larry's a hell of a coach.
Larry's a hell of a coach.
Yeah,
But and I think the biggest difference, and we can end on this, and what prevented the going to work era Pistons from becoming a potential dynasty, and what made the Bad Boys Pistons so iconic, was the mental aspect.
Yeah, because they never would have made that Rasheed Wallace play.
The going to work Pistons, to me, were a bunch of mental midgets that wanted to puff their chest out and constantly, they were just always overcompensating, and they thought they were playing these mental games and winning when in reality they were losing. They took on the image of Rasheed Wallace.
If it ain't rough, it ain't right.
But they also took on this image of Rasheed Wallace where they just wouldn't shut their mouths. And they kept on yapping at referees, and they did. And it was, you're not the 96 Bulls. When you become the 96 Bulls, you'll be treated like the 96 Bulls. So, and the Bad Boys Pistons were just winning. We're playing mind games with people and winning.
Yeah, but they are a hair away from having the same amount of titles, though. Yeah. You're being
no, because the Bad Boys were a hair away from three-peat.
That's true.
Okay, that's fair. But, I mean, the bottom line is the Pistons won a champion. The Bad Boy Pistons won 2. The Going-to-Work Pistons won a championship.
Look at the eras.
And they were tied going into the fourth quarter.
Look at the
Game
eras.
7.
You can't compare. Look at the eras.
I'm not disputing
the early 2000s.
I wasn't around
was the early 2000s was like one of the worst eras for the NBA. The NBA was so bad.
Okay. I think the Bad Boys Pistons are definitely a more decorated.
Scott, I would argue with you that Tim Duncan could be maybe the most underrated player in the history of the NBA.
Okay.
Best power forward ever.
I'm not saying there aren't people in the 2000s that were great NBA players. I'm just saying that era after Jordan, before the LeBron era group got into, became the icons that they became. I just thought there was a pretty down era for when it was like the Nets were going to the finals, getting swept. LeBron was taking Cleveland teams to the finals that couldn't compete.
If Kenyon Martin's your second best player and you're in the finals, that's a bad era. I agree. Yeah, no doubt.
I remember that game that LeBron had against us at home. It was
one of the greatest.
20 straight points in Game 5.
I put everybody on him. He was like, he hasn't shot that good since.
No, that's 20 points in a row.
And I still bristle that, and we're talking about that hair or that fine line that made it so the Going to Work Pistons didn't repeat. They very easily could have repeated. And the Bad Boys Pistons never three-peated. And if the Bad Boys Pistons three-peat, I think the perception around that team, the perception around Isaiah Thomas specifically, I think it's a 180.
I agree.
And don't forget when he threw the ball away that you could argue for.
87. That was 87.
Yeah,
that could have been a four-peat. Right.
Lambier's phantom foul.
But are you as hungry for the subsequent actual titles? Yeah. So I mean, there's that. Who knows? You're opening
as much as I have my personal issues with Isaiah now, I will go to the grave defending him as a player. He is the greatest player under 6'3" that's ever played basketball.
So what's going around the table? This goes in every sports show in the history of mankind.
He doesn't get enough respect.
What's the Mount Rushmore
nationally.
of Detroit sports? So Tigers, who is it?
One from each. That is the most common. That's a 97-1, like in 06 topic. One from each sport.
One from each team.
Yeah, one from each sport. Yeah, hurry.
Ty Cobb, Gordie Howe, Bobby Lane, and which one am I missing? Oh, Pistons. Isaiah.
Isaiah.
Yeah.
Gordie Howe. Miguel Cabrera. Nobody. But
come on.
The three people have done what he's done.
But he didn't.
He's not.
And batting average.
It's Ty Cobb's above Cabrera.
And no, Ty Cobb played in a different era. But
you can't go Kaline or Greenberg.
No, no.
Greenberg's the best hitter that's ever played for the Tigers.
Yeah.
Don't.
You don't think
the Hebrew Hammer, man?
I don't know. And then
he said Bobby Lane for
Isaiah hands down.
I mean, you could put Barry there. It's just he's.
Oh no, Barry for sure.
Yeah, the reason I would probably put Barry there. I have putting someone on Mount Rushmore that never won anything, and he was not the problem. I'm not implying that. it's just hard for me. It's like you're associated with this greatness you're on the mount, and the guy won one playoff game.
And you never really got
like,
and I love Barry Sanders, but you never really got the feeling that it ate at him.
No, I don't think it did. Right. But anyway.
He ran out of bounds.
With Isaiah, he was going to die before
Do you remember
if he wasn't going to win a championship.
He almost wanted to be traded. He was so
there was a time in 85 where they were on the verge of trading Isaiah Thomas to Houston for Ralph Sampson.
Yeah.
I never heard that one.
Yeah.
Well, I want to finish.
It was 86.
I want to finish here with Jeff. Jeff, do you have a Dennis Rodman at Cheeks story? Did he ever roll in?
No, Cheeks was pre-Dennis Rodman. But I would tell you about. I met Dennis Rodman. The training camp was in Windsor. Met him when he first got. He's afraid of his shadow. Literally, he was the most quiet guy you ever met in your life. And he told me his goal in life was to own a Jeep. I'm not making this up. Simple as that.
Very
he was a happy-go-lucky kid.
I used to see him at the stage. I used to see him at the stage in 1987.
Dennis?
Yeah. And Chuck Daly told him, I talked to Chuck, that if you rebound and play defense, you always have a job in this league. And he was a smart enough guy to believe it. And he had a hell of a career. Then everything went to he went cuckoo. He never drank. He never drank alcohol ever when he first got. He drank virgin daiquiris. And he used to go to this bar in 14 Mile in Orchard Lake called Mr. Sports. And he used to hang out with Spencer Steele playing pinball in 12 and Telegraph at the Tel 12. All true.
Best rebounder I've ever seen. Best rebounder I've ever seen.
And I'll tell you what he did one day, how crazy he was. I was with my friend. He was by Bojack's, and he goes, open up your window. He rolled the ball, threw us a check. It was a $2 million check. He was crazy.
You know what the best part, and I think it was a symptom of the era, and it's just the difference between professional athletes in the 2020s and the 1980s are just worlds apart because of the wealth factor now, and the social media factor, but I can't remember being out and about in the last 25 years and running into a ton of local professional athletes.
Here's a start for you, Scott. Nobody lives here anymore.
Okay. But my point is, I can remember as a kid seeing those bad boys around town all the time. And it wasn't just because I knew Jeff Sakwa. I mean, I would see Bill Lambier out. I would see Rodman out. I would see Dantley out. I would see Isaiah out. You would see Dumars out. They were just around town. And
smartphone era? You think that's part of it? Everyone has a camera. People are bugging them.
No,
I think
number one, you have an arena downtown.
I think all these guys now have personal chefs, so they're not going to restaurants.
Yeah,
and if they're going to restaurants, they're sitting in back rooms and VIP rooms.
Yeah.
I don't even know where anybody hangs out anymore.
When I think about that bad boy team, and it's not just the stuff that you saw that anybody can see if you YouTube it. What they did on the floor was so exceptional, and they really changed the face of the game, and they bridged a gap between the...
They changed the rules because of that.
Right, and they bridged the gap between the Magic and Larry era and the Michael era. But the connection that they had with the community, and I think the 84 Tigers had that to a degree too. I was a little too young to absorb that, though. But I just don't think it was a part of an era. And something I think back fondly on. And we were talking about the stage, and he was talking about Rodman. I just remember
he ate the stage all the time.
It was just seeing those bad boys around town. I can remember seeing Adrian Dantley and Dennis Rodman eating corned beef sandwiches at the stage after a Pistons game.
It's a different era. See, now you are the biggest celebrity people are seeing around town. So they say, I saw Scott Burnstein at the Stage Deli last Thursday. All right, guys.
I don't want to brag. I had lunch with him, and he picked up the tab.
Well, yeah, Scott's loaded. We all know that.
Yeah.
Talk to my significant other.
Well, I don't know where you're hiding that money, but all right. We appreciate you guys, man. This was fun. It was a good dynamic, and I really I'm fascinated by what happens on Tuesday. You guys refused to give me an answer, and if I were in that shoe,
I refused to give you an answer. I think
you said you had no idea.
No, I said I think Whitmer's going to win.
Oh, you first said no idea.
I didn't hear that part, but this is on tape, sir.
It's okay.
So you're a Whitmer. I'm Whitmer.
I didn't say I voted for her. I said I think she'll win.
No, right.
I'm prognosticating what the polls say.
But it's
and that was wrong. And that was wrong. I agree. I was wrong I've been wrong. People call me all the time. You don't want me to give you what I think because I'm wrong. So
the incumbent breaks the tie for me. But I don't feel confident in that.
I'm telling you, I'm shocked that we're sitting here
stunned
5 days before the election and we're questioning whether or not Whitmer's going to get in or not.
Let me ask you guys a bigger question.
Tudor Dixon, you want to talk about coming out of nowhere?
Did you already vote?
No.
Did you already vote?
No, I'm going to vote on election day.
Your mind's made up, obviously.
Yeah.
You just said it. Your mind's made up, right?
No.
Huh?
But it's really not.
Huh?
Yeah, and that's rare.
You guys' a mind's been between the bad boys in 2004.
Well, I may abstain at the top of the ticket because I have personal issues with Gretchen Whitmer based on our nursing home experience.
Oh, right.
I mean, that hit home. We were ignored. You
were ignored after many letters were written telling them what the safest thing to do.
I mean, not to pat ourselves on the back, but we knew what was best within reason for us, for our industry, and we could not get an ear. I mean, there were ears, but it was in that ear and out the other. Nothing that we requested was granted. Obviously, everyone knows the well-documented issues in New York were the same here, where we're forcing these nursing homes to take these 6 people, and then it just rips through the whole building. And, the other
wait, talk about common sense. Come on.
Well, the mistake that Michigan made that no one talks about, unless you're in the industry, you wouldn't know, is they were sicking, and I heard it was the same thing in New York, sicking the state on the nursing home. So instead of supplementing our care and how can we assist you and we're going to get you PPE, they were sending surveyors for additional infection control surveys to cite these nursing homes. Thank God our staff is fantastic. We, knock on wood, it never happens. We didn't get jammed up on a single citation. We are in a tiny, tiny minority. But it was still an imposition to have. We're in the height of this pandemic. Our population, unlike the elementary schools, are deeply impacted. And instead of any assistance, it's 6 people coming through with clipboards saying, hey, this person didn't wash their hands for the full 25 seconds. That was 22 seconds. They're sitting there with a stopwatch. Like, fuck off. We need your guys' help right now. We're on the front lines. Yeah. And it was not supportive. It was adversarial. And that is something that most people in our industry will never forgive.
Well, that's my biggest complaint with government in general. It should not be adversarial. You should be working together collaboratively. I believe the government, old Ronald, we're here to help you, doesn't exist.
Especially during a pandemic. Yeah. I mean, we needed help. They made it harder to work.
If this makes you feel any better, I know your place of business. They don't do a good job. They do a great job.
I appreciate it.
Well, it's a fact. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, we were lucky. I mean, lucky and we earned it too, but we did not have some of the citations. But we read the surveys that other places did, and I felt bad for them. Some of them were literally time on a stopwatch, how long they washed their hands. They didn't scrub for the full 25 seconds.
Well, that may be the best thing that came out of COVID. People wash their hands now.
Well, I'm with you on that. But I mean, the point is the attitude was Whitmer had her people coming in there with clipboards and angry faces. And that was the complete opposite. It killed people as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. I don't like Tudor Dixon, frankly. The abortion thing, the rape by your uncle, it's a boy. I'm with you. How do I get past that? So I may not vote top of ticket. I'll be voting. I never abstain from voting. I may not vote top of ticket. I wrote in Jesse Ventura in 2016.
You know what? And he would have been a great choice.
I like Jesse better than Hillary or Trump anyway, but I digress. So thanks to Ben Augusta, the great and powerful Oz on the other side of the curtain, Eric Williamson and his boxers on his couch at home doing our graphic set design.
Whoa.
Appreciate you guys. Scott, I'd love to have you back to talk JFK. And post-election, Jeff, man, you're welcome anytime, but I'd love to dig into your brain a little bit for more politics, frankly.
All right.
Are you down for one more appearance in the next 2 years?
You'll have to look at the candy on the way out.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we got enough.
I am a candy junkie.
I should come back, do a JFK, and then do a real story behind Casino and Goodfellas.
I'm in. Yeah, say no more. And then you can tell me why we're digging up some guy's driveway in Warren for the 37th time. Oh, they have it solved, but I still don't understand it.
Just quick tease.
By the way, is Elvis dead or not?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm with you on that.
I don't know how much you've been paying attention to what's going on in Las Vegas in the last couple months, but their water level is dropping precipitously, and there are dozens of bodies that are tied to Mr. Tony Spilotro, who was the Joe Pesci character in the movie Casino, that are now surfacing.
That arguably could be the greatest character of all time.
Yes.
Yeah.
He didn't. The real guy didn't swear though. I remember from the show. That's what you told me.
That's what I told. Well, the guys that I interviewed that were his subordinates said the only difference between the real Tony Spilotro and the Joe Pesci character was that the Joe Pesci character swore a lot more.
Well, I tell you one thing about your show, it's like ADD. It's all over the place.
Right. But
I didn't. So there's actual literal bodies turning up.
Yeah, so there dozens since May, and
Can you come back next week?
At least half a dozen, or at least 6 of them have already been connected to old casino era mob murders from the 70s.
That's fascinating. So Hoffa was incinerated though. So if,
Yeah,
the water
so there are
levels in
people
Michigan
asking
lower-
about that. Yeah, no, 75.
Yeah. All right. I appreciate you guys. We'll see you both soon. Spiro Avenue Show, Justin Spiro. I think we'll see you guys in a few days. We're working on that. I'm trying to get a Michigan athlete in here. For some reason.
Do you want me to see if I can get you John Wangler?
Well, I mean like a current player on the team.
Wayman was going to come in today, but
Yeah.
he couldn't. His kids are in.
Oh, so that was second choice.
No,
Great.
he was going to come in.
Well, it
with
was
you.
going to be a completely different focus. So I was thinking to ask him for his Tuesday prediction. But I will say it was an honor to have both of you, Scott. You know you're welcome anytime. You're top 5 most popular guests
Thank
we had
you.
our first rodeo.
Honored.
People loved that episode. And Jeff, welcome anytime. And it was
Bottom 5. I'm good.
well, that remains to be seen. I don't know what the feedback is yet, but I never know. I have fun with everybody. So, the audience dictates that. But, I mean, come on. I mean, we'll just both rub off against Scott, and then we'll be good. We'll be aces. Ben, appreciate you. Eric, appreciate you. Spiro Avenue Show, Justin Spiro. We'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.
You guys are good.